Okay, good evening everybody. We're about to get started soon, in just about a minute. Okay. Hello everybody. Good evening. It is now Friday night, 10 p.m. That means it's time for Beyond the Doll. So, let's get started with today's episode. Let me just change over. Okay. And we are going to transition. Hello everybody, good evening. It is Friday night, 10 p.m. Beyond the Doll time. Hopefully you guys have all had an amazing weekend, or week rather, and hopefully you'll have a good start to your weekend and spending it with me on Beyond the Doll for today's episode. So today's episode 4 of Beyond the Doll. And we are going to be talking about maintenance and care. I get questions about these a lot, like either in my comment sections or, when I go out to like events or when I talk to other people, they always talk about like, not only about how much these things cost, like how to take care of them is also another big question. Like, is there anything you have to do that specialty care for these dolls, anything that you need to be aware of, etc., etc. So today we're going to tackle that. Now, I am not an expert in maintenance and care. I'm going to share with you everything that I know about it, everything I do to take care of my lovelies, and maybe you guys can do the same. And those of you that are in chat, you can let me know, maybe there's something that you guys that do different, and then we can talk about it. We could, see what differences or similarities we have. And if you're new to the hobby, this will be a great episode for you to watch because it's going to, pretty much inform you on everything you need to know to make sure that you're prepared, that when your little one comes home, that you're ready and you're ready to go. Not only that, we're going to talk about maintenance and care for when you go out of the home. So if you're traveling, let's say to go do a photo shoot, or if you're just going to a doll meetup with friends, you're going to a convention, things of that nature. We'll also cover that too on little tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the years on, things that can help you and all that. Today I have my very cute little Skahat Scotty here. My little Dolphie dream girl. I like her a lot. I didn't actually think I'd like her as much when I saw the production photos, but when she actually came home, I love this little lady. She is amazing. So let's see. Let's say hi to everybody in chat. Hello, everybody. Tempest. Good evening, Tempest. How you doing? Just hit 45, but I'm behind on story. Yeah. You level up pretty quick in that game. Guillermo Lopez Sanchez. Good evening. Yoshi plays. Konbanwa. Yes, konbanwa to you too as well, Yoshi. Sunny Day Blooms. Good evening. Good evening. Oh, Tempest, you went to Anime Boston? Was that this weekend? Yeah, because I haven't had plans to go to Boston in a very long time, but glad to hear that you had a good time at Anime Boston. That convention is usually a lot of fun to go to, though, and it's really big. So it's a lot of cool places to eat when you go outside of the convention area too. Some nice restaurants out there. So, it's just overall like a good place to go to. I just can't afford it in my budget right now to go back to Boston. Haruhi, hello Haruhi, welcome. It's good to see you again. So we're going to be talking about, like I said, maintenance and care and things that you need to know when you're bringing your lovelies home, whether that be a Dolphie Dream, whether that be a smart doll or an A-Zone doll. There's all different kinds of dolls out there. I mean, some of these tips can even be useful for other dolls like pull-ups, Blides, things like Barbies, Monster High dolls. I mean, some of these will be somewhat similar and relatable, so it'll be overall pretty good. Yoshi Plays Momocon was fun. I'm also a Dolphie collector. Actually, I got one Obitsu Volks EB Beauty anime doll, and her name is Akiko. Yeah, I don't have an Obitsu yet, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to get my hands on a specific A-Zone girl, and I have yet been able to get her. It's been a struggle trying to get my hands on her. Still working on it, but it's pretty hard. Normally, I wouldn't even say that A-Zones are too typically hard to get your hands on, but this one in particular has been quite trying to get my hands on, so to speak. So, okay, so before we talk about maintenance and care, we should talk about like the dolls themselves to be able to understand how to care for them. You kind of have to know what you're dealing with as well. So, for example, let's take little Skahat here. She is a Dolphie Dream. Semi-white skin. It doesn't really matter what skin tone you have. It all applies anyways. But she is made out of vinyl. Most of these girls are made out of vinyl, especially if you go for a smart doll, you go for Dolphie Dream. Most of Obitsu's line are also vinyl. Some of the smaller ones are actually plastic, so it's a little bit different. But generally the same rules apply, like generally. And we'll talk about the differences. But most importantly is the vinyl. I mean, the majority of the dolls that I talk about, the majority of the stuff I cover are all about like vinyl dolls. So it's more geared, today's episode is more geared towards vinyl dolls and their maintenance and care. So with her, she's a vinyl doll, and all of her parts are essentially everything that you can see is made out of vinyl. That's part of her body. Any plastic parts, would be inside for the internal frame, but all the exterior parts are all vinyl. Now the ball joints on these dolls are actually made out of a plastic, and those are just exposed at the joints. Some of them are kind of hidden, like around the hips area. It's kind of hidden. The neck joint is pretty much hidden. It's all covered by the vinyl, but especially the elbows, the knees, the ankles, and the wrists are plastic, and those are exposed. So there will be a little conditioning there for those things, but not as bad as the vinyl. The vinyl is the most crucial part about these dolls. So I'm going to put Skahath over to the side like I always do, because I can't hold them for the entire session. They get kind of heavy, and it's a little cumbersome to hold them at the same time. So, sorry, my nose is like itching today for some weird reason. Let's see. I have 2 OG Dolphies. What do you mean by OG Dolphies? Like the OG vinyls? Or are you talking Super Dolphies, Tempest? How are you? I would love to know, how did you keep your lovely Chitose in beautiful condition after so many years? Yeah, so that's going to be covered as we go on with this episode. So the vinyl in general. So the vinyl material is malleable, right? It's not hard like hard plastic. It can be bended, it can be manipulated in a way, and that's the kind of cool part about it, because it has the ability to bend, and flex, like for when you move the arms around across the bust, it can move, and when the neck joint moves side to side, you get that flex in the vinyl. You also get like a soft texture to it, like for when you touch the skin of the vinyl. I like to say and describe it kind of like a velvety smooth. It's not 100% feeling like velvet, but it doesn't feel like a hard plastic. Like it's got a softness to it. I think you need just like a second doll cam. Yeah, I was actually thinking about getting a second cam, just like labeling it the doll cam and just putting on there, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But the vinyl is a very movable, pliable piece. And the cool thing about it too is not only is it pliable and movable, but if you heat up the vinyl parts, like if there's a dent or a ding, you heat it up with like a hair dryer, it actually softens up and goes back to its original form that it was casted in, which is a pretty cool thing. But to delve even more into the sensitivity of vinyl, is that vinyl is porous. Like most materials, and even our own human skin, we have pores. Vinyl also has pores, and depending on the manufacturer, those pores could be bigger or smaller. Dolphie Dream in particular are notorious for having very soft vinyl, which also makes it have very, very big pores. Now obviously those pores are not super big where it's visible to the naked eye. I mean, you would have to use some kind of microscope or whatever to like really examine it and look at the body and see those pores, but they are there. And those pores and the softnesses of it's what absorbs the dye. So just for an example, to bring let me see if I can get her back, to bring her back, right, to bring Skahath back, you could see here on her clothing, ooh, her stand just fell off. No. So you can see here on her clothing, there's a lot of dark colors. Like there's a dark purple here, there's dark black, there's black hair. The neck collar over here is a dark black. She's got really dark purple hair. Like a lot of this is dark. Now normally this is a red flag. Like usually you're like, I don't want to buy that doll because there's a lot of dark colors and it's gonna stain. And a lot of people are worried about that. Staining is a huge problem when owning these types of dolls, whether it be Dolphie Dream or Smart Doll. Now, again, I said some vinyl is more resistant than others. For example, Smart Doll's vinyl is made, or how should I say, like made or baked for a little bit longer than Dolphie Dream. So the skin is actually harder than a Dolphie Dream's vinyl skin. It's not as soft as Dolphie Dream, but that hardness, that extra baking in the oven, so to speak, for that vinyl makes the pores really small. They're like these tiny pores compared, like if I were to say like maybe it's tiny pores for Smart Doll and then like slightly bigger for like Dolphie Dream. You could look at it that way if you wanted to. Now what happens is that these dark clothing, depending on the manufacturer, see there's like a lot of like things that you got to watch out for. I mean, it could be the doll manufacturer, it could be the clothing manufacturer, it could be a lot of different things. But staining is an issue with dark clothing in particular. Now obviously if you have white clothes, you can even say cream colored clothing, you're not going to have as much of an issue with staining because there's not really much dye in it. But especially like blacks, blues, like greens, pinks, reds, things like that are really bright colored are going to give you an issue. And there's a couple ways to remedy this. So one, when you buy your doll in the very beginning, they're going to come with default clothing depending where you buy them from, right? So if you get it from Volks, they usually come in like white underwear and a white slip for like a standard doll. If you get a character doll, they usually will have some kind of clothing that has all different kinds of colors depending on that character's like outfits that they normally wear. And I would say they usually come with white panties, but recently, in recent years, some of them don't even come with panties at all. Like I know my Cheryl didn't come with panties. You know, so I mean, some of them they have them, some of them they don't. But these colors is what dyes the dolls, and if these blacks or these purples or these blues have a lot of heavy dye on them, the longer that dye rests on the skin of the doll, the greater your chance of that color transferring, all that extra dye, into the skin of the doll. And then when you take off the clothing, the doll's skin is blue or purple or whatever color, you know, the dye was. It's something that happens to all of these vinyl dolls. It can happen to OB2, Smart Doll, Dolphie Dream. It can happen to all of them. Dolphie Dream is a little bit more resistant. As I said, it has smaller pores, so it's a lot more resistant to staining, but it's not infallible. They can still stain. Yeah, they can. I lost my train of thought for a second. Smart dolls can still stain, and you got to be careful about that. Like, it's not just the Dolphie Dreams; it's Smart dolls as well. Now, I don't own an Obitsu as of yet, but Obitsu also has. If you get the larger dolls, they are also made out of vinyl. So I would assume you have the same issues with those. And I will probably cover that more in depth when I finally get my first A-Zone doll. But staining is a big issue. That's one of the biggest things that you have to watch out for when you're talking about maintenance and care of these dolls. Is don't put on dark color or vibrant color clothing on them for too long. You could always put them on, that's fine, but don't leave them on for too long. And when I say too long, again, it depends on the clothing brand. Volks is notorious for using a lot of heavy dyes in their colors so as to make the outfit very vibrant, to make it pop, you know what I mean? To make it like really noticeable. So Volks is really notorious for dyeing or staining their dolls with their clothing. So you got to be careful with that. I have a Rin doll from Idolmaster that came with a black sweater that was part of the default outfit. I put that sweater on the doll and I took it off, right? I put it on just so I could see the look of it, how she looks with the sweater. I took a picture and then I took it off. It may have been like maybe 5 minutes at the most. And already where the black touched her hand and her wrist, it turned black. It 5 minutes, it stained black immediately. Now, because I noticed it so quickly, and it wasn't really, it just got on there, it didn't have a chance to set in, I was able to clean it off and wipe it off, you know, and it came out fine and there was no issue anymore. But it stained, you know, almost instantly. It came off, and that's something that you have to be, you know, conscious about. So it could be as quick as 5 minutes or even 1 minute, depending on the type of dye and the type of clothing that your doll is wearing. It could be 2 days later. It could be a week later. I always tell people, when you buy vinyl dolls and you're doing your maintenance and care, check your dolls regularly. If you want to be, you know, more overly cautious, like a helicopter dad or a helicopter mom, you could check them every day. If you want to check them at the end of the day every day, just remove the clothing, you know, like pull like the fabric out from underneath a little bit and, you know, see if there is like any staining, and maybe you can, you know, handle it at that point in time really quick. Check the wig caps, because sometimes the wigs themselves, even if the hair is not dark colored, sometimes the cap that the hair is attached to can be dark colored, and that can also stain the head of your doll. So that's another thing that you really, really need to watch out for. Let me see. I need to check comments for a second. Tempest said, OG was the 1/6 scale abs body vinyl head Barbie-like dolls released in 98. Oh, yeah. Those really old ones. And the Super Dolphies in 99. Yeah, okay. You want to really do that for science, is get a microscope and check the vinyl out? I mean, you could. If you do it, videotape it so we can all see what you're looking at. Hey, what's up, Demi? Welcome to the stream. What's up, chat? See, I missed Con Talk. I was at MomoCon, there was like 4 cons happening in the East Coast at the same time. Oh, really? I haven't honestly been looking at the con scene very much this whole season. Like I'm almost going to no cons this year. I was trying to get into Otakon, but I'm not going this year because silly me, I missed the deadline for panels application, so I won't be there. At least staining is easier to remove on vinyl than it is on resins. That's a good point. Because I don't own a resin doll, so I don't know how badly staining affects resin versus vinyl. But Demi makes a good point that if vinyl stains, there are remedies to remove the staining, which we will go on and talk about later on in the stream. But yes, it is removable if you ever get them stained. Let's see. Tempest says, Dai Geekdom on 2. I want to make a doll programming track there next year. I kind of want to get a Nen doll. Are you talking about those little ones? Like the tiny ones from A-Zone? Those things are cute. Haruhi says, I realize that Smart Doll's movement and flexibility is better than Dolphie Dream Dolls. I can remove my Moment hands easily without any sweat, but my Lucas hands is so hard to remove after heating. Yeah, so for Smart Doll, their vinyl is made a little bit harder than it is for Volk's Dolphie Dream. Now, in some ways, that harder vinyl makes it easier to take on and take off because it's kind of almost like plastic in a way, where it's like it doesn't like latch onto each other so easily. I don't know if that makes any sense, but with like Dolphie Dreams, because they're small, they're a much softer vinyl. They kind of like not stick, but and it's not suction cup, but it kind of like grab on to other vinyl pieces, like. Not like they have teeth, but I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like when you rub your hands against fabric in the opposite direction that it's laid. You know what I mean? Like it kind of catches a little bit. That's what you're experiencing with the vinyl. It's like catching onto the plastic. Heating it up does make it a lot easier. But yeah, it's easier to change out the Smart Doll hands than it is for the Volk's hands. That's for sure. Demi says, I bought the Miku Nen doll because I'm Miku obsessed. Of course you are. I wouldn't doubt that you have almost everything Miku involved there, Demi. Carmen. Oh, hello there. Hey, Carmen. Welcome to the stream. Tempest says, no resin doll. Oh, we need to change that. Look, it'll be changed, Tempest. I will get my first resin when Belle, the Disney princess, comes out from Volks. That will be my first one. I would have had my first one years ago, but when I was in Japan and I wanted to build my own resin, they wouldn't let me. It was apparently for Japanese residents only, so I couldn't build one. Let's see. Demi says, and with Volks, you can just buy a new body part. Yeah, that's another thing too. You can also buy that, which we'll touch upon in just a bit. Actually, that was going to be one of the next things I talk about. Tempest Strife, surface tension, friction. Yeah, that's basically what I was trying to explain. You did a much better job in explaining it, but you get a lot more surface tension with the softer vinyl than you do with the harder vinyl. Now, if your doll's clothes stain your doll, there's a lot of different remedies that you can do. You can buy creams to clean them off. You can use, like, sometimes if you catch it early enough, you can use, believe it or not, baby wipes. You can use magic erasers, like the Mr. Clean magic erasers, to clean it off or to rub it off. Sometimes you can even use your hand. Like if it literally just died onto the doll, like right now, you could use your hand. It's not recommended, but I've done it a couple times in a pinch because I had nothing else around and it actually got off the stain. I was just lucky it didn't smear. But I mean, it can happen. You can, if you catch it that quickly, you could probably rub off the dye that just came off on the doll. But staining has many different issues with it. Not only do you get staining from the doll's clothing, you can also get it from pressure. So let's say you have clothing that's been pre-treated. So some companies like Smart Doll pre-treat their clothes so that the dye doesn't stain the doll. And they do a lot of testing for it too. So Danny Chu will, create an outfit and he'll put it on a doll and he'll leave it on the doll on the shelf or something for like X amount of days, weeks, or months. I don't know how long he puts it for, but he puts the doll through its paces and then he'll check to see if it stains. And then if it doesn't stain, he releases the product and, and that's that. Like it usually doesn't stain. It's stain tested, right? Sometimes there are clothings from Smart Doll that are stain tested and it has a high chance of staining anyways, and he still sells it, or low chance of staining and he still sells it. But he puts it in the item description. There's like a warning there saying that this can stain the doll. There's a possibility that this will definitely stain the doll, yada, 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 right? But what I mean by pressure is, even if you have stain treated clothing like that, it can still stain the doll. And what I mean by pressure is let's say your doll is wearing stain-proof jeans or something like that, or stain-proof shirt, right? And you're at a convention. I do this with my dolls a lot. I go to a convention and I put my doll in a sitting pose, right? And I kind of hold them. Well, you can't see my hand, but I hold them like this, like their butt sits on my palm of my hand, and I carry them around like a baby, right? Like kind of like a baby. I walk around the convention holding them. But that pressure of the doll laying their butt on my hand, and then my hand, from walking around and just regular holding, my hand starts to get, maybe sweaty. Like some people sweat more than others or sweat quicker than others. But eventually at some point, if you've been doing it for a couple hours, your hands will sweat. And the pressure of the doll's weight against your hand and the sweat or the moisture, let's say, that can also stain the doll. No joke, it can, because it happened to me once. I didn't think it would stain, and I had it like that, and it stained. Luckily, I had a stain prevention outfit, which we will get into in the next section. But I had a stain prevention outfit. All I had to do is take that off, change it, get a new one, and then my doll was fine. The stain didn't actually penetrate through the stain prevention outfit. Midwest Smart Doll, hey, you made it for live. Hey, welcome to the live. Haruhi says, I have a resin doll not from Dolphie Dream, as from Angel Studios. Okay, I've heard of Angel Studios. It's not easily stained. If there is a stain, I will use magic sponge to remove. The porcelain doll that I have is not easily stained too. So yeah, that's what I said. For most of you that own resin dolls, you could probably weigh in on this conversation a lot better than me, because I know nothing about resin. So some have mentioned up above in chat that they do stain, and Haruhi saying that her version from Angel Studio doesn't stain as easily. But yeah, pressure on the doll's skin. So even if the doll's in a standing position, and let's say you're holding them by their legs, right? Like if you ever look at Danny Chu's post, sometimes he'll take a picture of the doll holding them out like this, and he'll have the camera and he's taking a picture, and he's like clamping down on the legs. So if even that kind of pressure, like let's say you're walking around the con holding the doll by their legs like that, that pressure against the skin of the doll and the clothing of the doll mixed with your hand moisture, or let's say it's a humid day, like a really humid day, like if you're in Florida or something like that, that pressure contact of the clothing against the skin of the doll will stain the doll. If you live in an area that has a lot of humidity, like my example for Florida, or if you live somewhere down south that is a very humid area, like Singapore, I've heard, and Taiwan are very humid. Even Japan can be very, very humid in the summer. That humidity can also cause just the humidity alone and the moisture in the air could cause the transfer of the color of the clothing to the doll. So you got to be wary of that, especially in summer. Check your dolls more often than you normally would in the wintertime, because that will also stain the doll. If you have the dolls in a kneeling position or in a sitting position on a shelf in your house, or in a case, like a Detolf case from IKEA, a lot of people have those. If they're sitting, any kind of contact where the skin directly contacts and puts pressure on the clothing, that has a higher chance of dyeing and staining the doll's skin. So you have to be careful about those things. That's one of the things that you really need to be careful about with these dolls. Midwestern Smart Doll says, my resin kiddos are so much easier to treat than my Smarties and Dolphies. That sounds good. Like, I guess if they stain because they're harder resin, you could probably put more pressure and scrub harder. That's my assumption, to get out the stains. Tempest says, I had black dyed leather dye my resin. It was a choker. That's about only thing. Yeah, chokers, because they're usually on tight, so they don't slide up and down. So yeah, I could see that, staining resin seems to yellow more than vinyl more. I guess it does, but vinyl does yellow. I'm going to be talking about that as well. Midwestern Smart Doll says, I would say in my opinion it yellows more, yes, but I only have a few resin dolls. I've heard that though. I've heard that from other people, and of course you in chat, that resin does yellow. And I can believe it, because it's the same thing if you're a figure collector or statue collector. Like if you collect Nendroids or like things like that, if you leave them on a shelf somewhere that has direct contact through the window for light, they will yellow. Yeah, for sure. So I can definitely see that happening with resins as well. Yellowing also happens in the vinyl doll. I'll explain that in a second. But any kind of staining, whether from pressure, from holding them, from really tight clothing, or really heavily dyed clothing, can stain the doll. And that's something that you need to be wary about. These dolls are not cheap. This is an expensive hobby as an entry fee. Any hobby can be expensive. Any hobby can be very expensive. But this hobby in particular, to get into it, has a higher entry fee to get into it. So you could have one doll that costs you a lot of money, but but you only have one. Or you could be like a Nendroid collector, which is only $50, sometimes $100, but you have like 30 of them. That's like $3,000 right there, right? Like, or less. So things like that, any hobby can be expensive, but because these dolls just for one is expensive, you really want to make sure that you do some proper care and maintenance on your dolls, because replacing a doll, cleaning the doll, or getting replacement parts can be also expensive as time goes on. Let's see. Midwest says, I would say in my opinion it yellows more, yes, but I only have a few resin dolls. My Tempest says, my doll army seems to be evening out resin versus vinyl. Yeah, I know, because I think you told me that you started with resin, right, Tempest? So now you're evening out. You're getting a lot more vinyl nowadays. Midwest Smart Doll says, how is your Asuna? Has she mellowed since you got her at all? Yes. So her smell, if that's what you're referring to, her like musty smell from being like, I don't know, wherever she was stored, it's pretty much gone now. Like, she aired out pretty well, and it's still there. Like, if you put it like up to your nose and you really sniff, like you're gonna smell a little bit of it, but for the most part, like it's pretty much gone. Tempest says, speaking of which, got my first mechanical keyboard. Oh, congratulations. And Tempest said, yeah, she started with resin. So yeah, anything like that. So staining is a big issue with these dolls, and you need to be very careful and be very proactive in making sure that your doll does not stain. Okay, so that's staining. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about right out of the gate for maintenance and care is staining. Now, the next thing I want to get into is what we talked about in chat, like some people mentioned already, is yellowing. So some people say yellowing happens with resin, and I, in turn, said, yeah, I could believe that, and that also other things yellow, like Nendroids and Figmas, statues, things like that. If you put them in direct light, they can also yellow as well. So can these dolls. They can yellow also. So, luckily, okay, I'm saying for me, luckily, knock on wood, none of my dolls have yellowed, but they can yellow. So if you put them in the sunlight, in direct sunlight, like let anything else, if you put them on a shelf that's directly in front of a window, they will stain. They will yellow. Like, over time, it's not going to be like, if you leave them, like for instance, if you take your doll out for a photo shoot on a really sunny day, and you're out for like, I don't know, a 2-hour session, 3-hour session, maybe let's even go as far as saying half a day. You're out for half a day. Like, let's say you were at a convention too. You're out for half the day. That won't be as bad. Like, it won't yellow, because you're moving around, there's air going around, you're going in and out of buildings maybe. If you're out in the wild, like a park kind of thing, even then there's wind and stuff, so it doesn't really yellow too much, but it can. Like, if you do it over time, like let's say you go every day you go out and you only have one doll, and every day you go out and you go take pictures in the park, or you go hang out outside with friends and you display your doll, that will yellow faster, but you won't see it. You know what I mean? Like, you won't see the yellow transition. It's just gonna yellow ever so slightly, and more and more and more as time goes by. And eventually, at some point, like, let's say you buy a brand new doll that's the same color, like you get a Dolphie Dream in flesh skin, and your original Dolphie Dream was flesh skin. When you put them next to each other, you're gonna see that there is a different shade to them. And one will be a little bit more yellowed. And it really just depends on how much exposure to sunlight you give them. So my dolls, usually when I take them outside for a photo shoot or for cons, they're usually in a bag. I usually keep them in a bag, a carrying case, whatever they have you. And when I want people to see them, like if I'm walking around indoors at a con, I'll take them out and I'll hold them and I'll walk around with them. If I'm at a photo shoot, they're always in their bags. I take them out for the photo. As soon as I'm done taking my photos, I put them back in the bag because I don't want any chance of yellowing. Now, that's me being paranoid, okay? I'm not saying you have to do exactly the same thing I did, but I'm very paranoid about the care and maintenance of my dolls. Like, I go overboard, okay, is what I'm saying. I go overboard. And not everybody is like that, you know? Some people are more adventurous than me. I'm just too crazy about my care of my dolls. So, and you don't have to go to that level. I'm just saying that's just me. That's what I do. So luckily, none of my dolls have yellowed. My Chitose, as who mentioned it, Haruhi, I think, mentioned it earlier. She hasn't yellowed. Let me see. I just want to make sure I got the right person's name. I think it was, who said it? I know one of you said it. I can't find it. Oh, well, someone let me know in the chat. Anyways, with my Chitose, I take her everywhere. She is my most traveled doll than any doll in my collection. She came with me on all my first convention. No, I shouldn't say all my first. She goes with me to every convention. I don't think there's a convention I didn't take her to. I think. But she usually comes to every single convention I go to. Almost every photo shoot I go out and do. All of my travel videos, she usually comes out, if it's not Mirai. When I went to Japan, she was the only doll I brought with me. So I take her out everywhere. And the majority of the time, she spends in the bag. I only take her out for photos and pictures, and then she goes right back in the bag. If I have her out for longer than that, it's usually when I'm indoors. Walking around, seeing people, or hanging out for, doll meets. They're usually indoors, and she's out of the bag a lot longer. And I usually don't pose her anywhere near a window. Otakon is a good place to take your doll to, because Otakon has like a connecting glass bridge on the second floor that connects two buildings, but that whole glass enclosed area is all tinted windows. So even though the sun's coming in to light up that area, it's tinted, so it's not really direct sunlight. But even then, if you leave them there for too long, I guess you could, have maybe a yellowing problem. Haruhi says, yes, most of my Gundam models is changed colors. It's too close to the window, so I moved my display cabinet. Yeah, I had that problem too with, I had a bunch of Love Hina dolls, and I had a bunch of, well, not dolls, but figures. Let's say that. Figures and Gundam kits and Transformers, and I put them on top of my desk, and it was right in front of the window. All of them, the colors faded and yellowed, like all of them. So the sun really damages anything it touches, really. Not just dolls, but be careful of the sun with your dolls. That's basically the point, is be careful with them, because the sun can be damaging. Does this apply to Smart Doll as well? Yes, it does. The sun damaging Smart Dolls does apply as well. But again, Smart Doll is made different. They're baked a little bit longer, their vinyl, so they're a lot more resilient than the Dolphie Dreams. I can't comment on A-Zone because I don't have one. I don't know really the particulars of their vinyl processing. So I don't know if they're more similar to Dolphie Dreams or more similar to Smart Doll. That I'm not sure of. I will let you guys know when I finally get my first A-Zone. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I can finally get her. I'm trying to get her. It's been a disaster so far, but hopefully. But yeah, it can happen to Smart Doll. Just be careful with them. Just don't keep them in front of a window is really it. Take them outside all you want. Have fun with them. And when you're done, just leave them in a bag somewhere when you're traveling or whatever. Don't put them in those, what do they call those bags? There's a bag. Oh my gosh. I know someone in chat knows. There's a bag where people have that has a clear window where people can put their pins and their like little stickers and stuff like that. I've seen also people carry their dolls around in that bag as well, or those little animal carriers like the puppy or the kitten carriers where it's like a backpack but it has like a clear bubble, and they usually put their dolls in there and that like has direct sunlight going through that clear lens. Be careful with that as well. Don't put them in too much sunlight. And like I said, yellowing of your dolls is not something that you're going to notice like off the bat. You're not going to have your doll like out in the sun or in those clear bags and you're going to be like, you get home and be like, oh my god, she yellowed. Nah, it's a slow, subtle process, and if you do it enough, eventually couple months or a couple years later, you're just going to notice some yellowing. It's going to happen. So yellowing is an issue. Water is another one. Don't get them wet. It's like gremlins. Don't feed them after midnight. Don't get them wet, kind of thing like that. Don't expose them to sunlight. It's kind of like the same thing. Oh yeah, Tempest says Ita bags. Ita bags, that's what they're called. Ita bags, yes. Those are the bags with the clear windows. So water is another thing. Now, direct water is not going to damage your dolls. Like if they, like let's say you were at a meet and it started to rain and you're running to your car or something and they get a little wet, that's not an issue. That's okay. You can wipe it off. You'll be fine. It shouldn't be an issue. Now, if you douse them with like Coca-Cola or something, that's going to be pretty bad because Coca-Cola is acidic, and it's not going to burn through the doll, but that definitely will stain. And there's a lot of heavy food coloring and dyes in Coca-Cola. Don't do that. Like tea, coffee, don't splash that. But water is not bad. What gets bad with water is, and it makes me cringe sometimes, and maybe people just have good editing skills. I don't know, but I've seen a lot of pictures on Instagram and Twitter of people taking pictures of their dolls in water, like in a river, at the beach, like on the sand and getting water on them. Salt water is not good for your doll. The salt will dry out the grease that's inside the joints. You could also get salt fragments or sand fragments stuck in between the joints of your dolls, so that's an issue. Now, if you have spare parts lying around, that's fine. Or if you have a throwaway body, if you just so happen to have a throwaway body, I know some people might have. Like if you bought just a body that was stained a little bit and you cleaned it up and it's like a body that you want to use for like really risky photos that you don't mind the body getting damaged, maybe you have one of those. Or maybe those people on Instagram are doing that. Or it could just be really great photo editing where like they're putting their dolls near the water and then just photo editing them into water. I don't know, but I've seen videos too. There was one guy, I showed it at a convention once. There was one guy where he had a video that he posted on Twitter of his doll on the beach. He was taking a picture of the beach and it was a video, so you see the water brushing up against the doll and then going back into the ocean as the water goes back and forth. It made me cringe. I was so scared that he was going to lose the doll. And then he posted a picture, I think it was like a day later, of the doll actually fell over into the sand face first because the wave hit it and like it got all wet, and oh my god, I got so scared for that guy. It was crazy. Tempest Stripe says, oh, the cat carriers, yeah. She tried the backpack, but it was too small. Oh, Maria Velez, hello. I'm a bit late, but love to see you tonight. Hello, Maria. Welcome. That's an interesting idea. Which one are you talking about? The idea is that you talking about the Ita bags? Let me know. But yeah, water is not so much of an issue, but just depends where you're going. Beach water, I please try not to get them in the sand or in salt water. It's not good for them. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you just so happen to do, because you wanna get that epic photo, right? I would suggest that if you were to do that and they get a little sand, they get a little salt water, bring them home immediately and clean them. Like, don't wait. Don't be like, okay, we're done taking our photos. They're a little dirty. Let me wipe them off, and then let's go eat at McDonald's and let's hit up a bar or something, and then I'll clean it when I get home later tonight. No, like bring them home, clean them off, and then go out somewhere because you don't want to let it sit. That's even worse. If you let it sit on your doll, that's even worse. So try to keep them away from salt water But that's just my opinion, okay? Like I said, there's other people that are more adventurous than me, and I overreact on the maintenance and care of my dolls, so that's just my opinion. Be also careful, like if you're taking pictures near, like, let's say a fountain in a mall, that water in that water fountain is not really clean either, because people like to throw pennies and make a wish in there. Like all that dirt and grime in that water, not a good idea either. So be wary of that, because I know sometimes those are cool. Like I took a picture of Chitose in right on the ledge of a water fountain in Japan, because they had this really cool extravagant water fountain thing set up in Sunshine City. If you ever want to go to Pokemon City over there, it was beautiful. But like, yeah, there was a lot of splashing water and fountains going off everywhere. I had to really clean off Chitose after that. But just be careful with the water, okay? It's not super harmful, but also if you're wearing clothing that has heavily dyed and you get them wet, be careful on that, because then if you get the clothing that's heavily dyed wet, you could get color transfer that way as well. So be careful, just be mindful. Like, I know this is probably scaring some of you and you're like, oh my god, this is too much. I'm just letting you know the things, but most of the time, like 8 times out of 10, let's say, these are issues that you more than likely will not run into. I assume that everyone in this chat or people watching this video would be careful with their dolls and give their dolls the amount of attention that they need. I would assume. Let's see. Haruhi says, yes, I have A-Zone Pure Nemo, Sweet Pink Girls Koran in the cat mouth version. I removed the box to test the color changes and it really turned. Thank goodness my Koran is still in mint condition. Yeah, because Pure Nemos are not vinyl. They do have a vinyl head, because it's like a squishy head, but their actual bodies are plastic, and plastic does change color and yellow in the sun as well, so that can happen. Tempest Strife says, I do really appreciate the extra pieces from Volks. We'll talk about that when we talk about like actually doing like troubleshooting after staining, but these are all things I want to talk about first, things that you should look out for first, and we'll get to the other things. So those are things that you should look out for. If I missed anything, let me know, but main thing is staining from clothing and dyes, water, things like that, and pressure, like any contact between the skin and the dolls. Yellowing, just make sure you on the lookout and be mindful about yellowing as well. Those are all like major concerns, I would say. Also, another one I just thought of, it was your hands, right? So your hands are naturally oily. Like it's just everybody's is. Some people, it may be just natural oils that your body secretes. It could be sweating, it could be lots of things. Like you go to the mall, you touch everything, you play video games, you're touching the arcade sticks, whatever. Eating, like you go out to eat, like let's say you have a burger, you got big greasy hands. Let's say you don't wash your hands, but you wipe them off, right? Or something like that. I don't know. You still have grease residue, right? Be careful when you're touching your dolls. Now, I was a little too crazy. When I first started collecting these dolls, I went and I washed my hands every time before I touched the doll, right? And that's a good thing to do. It's a good habit to get into. Wash your hands before you touch the dolls is a very good thing to do. Is it a little overboard? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it can be a little overboard. I mean, you could just use Purell instead, but make sure the Purell dries, because if you have a little leftover Purell in your hands, that stuff in the Purell agent could stain the doll, okay? So be careful, that alcohol in there. But the hands from your oils, like if you see a doll, someone else with their doll, but you're not an owner of a doll. Let's use this example, right? You went through a convention all day, you're talking to people, you're having fun, you touch a bunch of things in the vendor room, things like that. You went to the game room, things like that. And then you see someone with the doll and they're like, oh my god, that's like the cutest doll I've ever seen. Can I hold her? And most people will be nice, because a lot of people in the doll hobby are very nice, welcoming people. And they're like, sure. But just be careful because even though they say sure and they hand over the dolls just so they can see them, you could see they're eyeing you. They're like watching everywhere your hands are about to touch. Like if they see you about to touch the face, usually doll owners like, oh, just don't touch the face, okay? Just be careful with the face. Like you'll see, like doll owners are very protective of their dolls. They're very nice and they'll let you see them and hold them and touch them, but they'll also like watch you with like eagle eyes. They'll just be like, where are they touching the doll? Okay, that part's okay. That part's okay. Whoa, don't touch there. Like, so your hands, just be careful of your hands. Like whatever kind of grease you have on your hands, any kind of oils on your hands, lotion. Like for you ladies out there, if you like to moisturize a lot, just be careful with the lotion. If you're one of those people that like to put too much lotion, you could get the lotion on the dolls as well. So just be careful of that. That's something that you need to just be aware of. So hand oils, that's another thing you got to be worried about. You don't have to like buy white gloves and only touch your dolls with white gloves. Like you'll see me in my videos. I touch my girls with my bare hands all the time. But what you don't see is that before I filmed that video, I washed my hands. So it's like, yeah, like, you know, I always make sure I wash my hands before I touch my dolls. But when I'm in a convention, like when I take my dolls to convention, especially for panels, they're up on the tables, right, for everyone to see, and I'm touching the microphone, I'm touching my keyboard, you know, I'm talking to people and things like that, and then I go to touch my dolls to put them in the bag. What I don't know if some people notice, some people that met me in person, I usually put some Purell on my hands and I clean my hands first before I actually touch the dolls and I put them away. So just be mindful of hand oils, like the oils in your hands, just be careful of that. Also, if you touched someone else's doll, like if you're a doll owner and you meet another doll owner and you're like, oh wow, I've never seen that doll in person, can I see her? Like my Skaha Scotty, and you pick her up and touch her and you touched all the black dyes and the purple dyes from that doll, and then you go back to your own personal doll and you touch that doll, you could possibly stain your own doll because you had some residual dye on your hands from touching the other one. So just be mindful of what you touch before you touch your own dolls or somebody else's dolls, because staining is an issue that way as well. Batman Jackson says, I will freak out if you touch the face. I think all doll owners will. I think every doll owner out there will. Like especially with young kids. Like when I go to conventions, the young kids like, can I see it? And like I'm always like, yeah, sure, of course you can see it. And you see it out of your eye. They're about to touch the face. They're like, I want to touch it. I'm like, ooh, don't touch the face. So like Maria Velez agrees. She's like, so true. Haruhi says, I use white gloves to handle all of my dolls if I bring them outdoors taking photos. That's not bad. That's a good habit to get into. I personally don't do it because I just don't have white gloves to bring around. I probably should buy white gloves. I just haven't. But that's a good habit to get into. I mean, the more you can do to protect your dolls, the better, right? I will never criticize you or make fun of you, and nobody else should either, just because you want to make sure that your dolls are as safe as possible. I mean, you invest a lot of money into this hobby. You invest a lot of money into these dolls. Any kind of precautions that you take, you know, is rightfully so, especially with how much money you invest into this hobby. Marie Velez says, I will be handling gloves from now on, LOL. You don't have to, but it could be a very good habit to be getting into. SB Writer, welcome to the chat. SB Writer, welcome to the stream, says, do Coco dolls yellow? I know they stain and scratch, but yellow. Now, I can't say for sure because I don't own a Coco doll. I don't know if anyone in chat knows, but because of the darker complexion on the dolls, there's a chance that maybe they won't yellow, but they may fade. The color may fade, right? Like, and this is not from experience. This is me speculating. Like, for example, when I have a Gundam model kit, like a plastic model kit in front of the window, and it's like a dark navy blue kit, after a while of it being in front of the window, it starts turning like light blue. Like, it's not as dark as before. It starts turning a lighter shade. So maybe you won't get yellowing on a darker skin, but you can get color fade. So the color of the Coco may not be as deep. So you got to watch out for that. Let's see. Tempest says, I'm usually I'm usually rough and rowdy with my dolls. 9S and 2B make me so paranoid. Most of the rest I personally painted. I mean, it really depends on the person. Everybody handles their dolls in many different ways. Everybody plays with their dolls in different ways. I say plays, but I don't know how many people like plays versus just like, you know, posing or whatever. I don't know. But everybody handles their dolls differently. And I don't want to discourage you from handling the dolls the way you want to handle. Treat the doll the way you want to treat your doll. Okay? Because it is your doll. Who am I to tell you how you should treat your doll? All I'm telling you here is I'm just warning you that there are potential dangers. So, I mean, you could be rough with your doll and possibly nothing ever happens to them because it's a different kind of rough. Maybe you just bring them around a lot, or you bring them everywhere you go. To some people that may be considered rough. Now if you have your dolls and they like play fight and they're punching each other, or if like you're constantly dropping your dolls on their face outside on the concrete, then yeah, maybe I'd agree that's a little too rough, right? But for the most part, I think rough is relative. It's subjective, depending on the person. Like, to me, like, you know, playing with my dolls like you would a Barbie doll, like a 6-year-old would play a Barbie doll, is a little too rough for these dolls, in my personal opinion. And I would never do that with my dolls. But you never know. I mean, other people might do that, and their dolls might end up totally fine. So it really is kind of subjective when you say rough, like, because everybody sees it a little differently. Hari says, ha ha ha, your conversations with everyone is so cute and humorous. Thank you, I guess. I don't really notice it, but okay, thank you. Midwest Smart Doll says, we are the only people allowed to touch our dolls' faces. True. I want to say that should be a rule, but you know, some people treat their dolls differently. So I don't know, maybe other people are okay with other people touching their faces, but for me personally, it's always a big no-no for me. Like, I always have to tell people, just don't touch the face. Tempest says, SB, I would say yes. Red tones can fade, blue tones can move to green. These pigments are usually presented in tan and brown colors. So yeah, it's like I said before, and Tempest agrees. You could get color fade on like a Coco skin doll. Even if you have the newer ones, the Interstellar blue dolls, that could possibly fade or change to somewhat, maybe even green. I don't know. Because the yellowing might turn it green. I don't know. That's actually something I never thought of. Batman says Coco dolls turn olive. Ooh, but only a little bit. The sun pulls the red out of the brown. So yeah, and I know Demi would know because Demi has like a Coco doll. I know for sure she has one. So, you know, so yeah, be careful with the Coco even because that could possibly yellow, depending on how much sunlight you give it. Haruhi says you can get it from Daiso stores. Never wear rubber gloves. The friction will scratch the doll. Yes, that's good advice. Do not wear rubber gloves, just the white cloth gloves. Tempest says hits doll with spare hand, quit hitting yourself. Midwest Smart Doll says I literally cringe at that playing like with Barbie dolls as I'm changing out my prototype girl. Tempest Strive says I think they would go green like old Bambi con. What's that? What does that mean? Tempest, the Bambi Coney? Batman seems to know what you're talking about because he's laughing at you. And Tempest says blue changes to green. Yeah, I would assume it does. I mean, I've never seen it, but I would assume it would. So yeah, those are a lot of things that you need to look out for, right? Like we've been talking a lot about, and that's the whole point of this episode, is talking about the things that you need to look out for maintenance. Now let's get into the next topic I want to talk about with maintenance and care. So now you know about all the things, at least all the things I could think of, you know of all the things to be aware of. Being a new doll owner or even existing doll owner, these are all the things that you need to be aware of and just be cautious of when owning these vinyl dolls. Now, here are some tips and tricks that I want to get into. Well, it's not really tricks, but some things I want to show you. Let's put it that way. Regarding how to stain prevent. Right? Staining is the number one issue. That's the biggest issue. Now, there are ways to prevent staining from happening, which I want to talk about now. So this is stain prevention. We're on the next branch of our topics we're talking about. So stain prevention. We're going to change our screens here for a second. All right. So we're going to talk about stain prevention and how you can prevent your dolls from staining. There's a lot of different things. And first off, let's cover Dolphie Dreams, right? Now, these can be somewhat interchangeable between doll brands, depending on what it is, and I'll mention them as we go along. But I want to talk about Dolphie Dream first. So, first up, this is what's called a wig cap. Now, they come in very different ones. You can have a fabric cap, just like this is shown, and that's sold by Volks. You can get them in small, medium, and large. The majority of the girls that you own, which are Dolphie Dreams, will use the large wig caps. You could go as small as medium, but you don't really need to. Large is pretty much the best size for any Dolphie Dream that you have. Even your mini Dolphie Dreams, large is fine. You'll have like a little extra fabric, but it's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. So the wig cap is something you put on their head before you put on the wig, and that prevents staining the head of the doll. So if you have a dark colored wig cap, so sometimes you can have like a black wig cap and all the hairs are attached to that black cap. So if you put that on your doll's head, it might stain the head black because you have a black cap, or a dark, some of them have like really dark brown, and I don't know how well that will stain or not. Some will have really light tan. I know those haven't stained for any of my dolls. I don't think I've ever seen them come in white head caps, so that might not be a thing. But you can buy this from Volks, and these wig caps are only $6, roughly, depending on the strength of the yen. It could be a little bit more or a little bit less, depending on the conversion of the time when you go out to buy these wig caps. But they're about, if you get them straight from Volks, they're about $6. And that is nothing compared to staining a doll's head, because you can change other parts of a doll, but the head is probably the worst one, especially if you have a limited edition doll. You can't find just another head lying around somewhere. That's going to be hard. So staining on the head is the most sensitive area. You don't want, and just like I said before, you don't want people touching the face of the doll. Like, you don't want to stain the doll's head. So the wig cap, this white wig cap, will protect the head from being stained from the wig cap itself on the wig. Wow, that's a lot of redundancies. The wig cap, the stain prevention white wig cap, will prevent the colored wig cap on the actual wig from staining the doll's head. Wow, that's a mouthful. So you could buy this. That is a very good stain prevention. And when you do your regular checkups on your doll, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is that you personally decide to do, when you go and check, if it stains and you check it at just the right time, then all you have to do is replace the wig cap. Right? The $6 wig cap, throw it in the garbage or wash it. See if you could wash. I never tried washing it, but you could just throw it away, buy a new one, and replace it, and you're good to go, because it never went through the wig cap and stained the actual doll. Now, suffice to say, if you wear the white wig cap and you never check your doll, like let's say you decide to check your doll like a year later or 2 years later even, then it's possible that the wig stained the white wig cap so much to the point where the stain went through the white wig cap and still went onto your doll's head and stained your doll. So that's why I say, like, check your dolls regularly, whether it's daily, weekly, or even monthly. Check them regularly to make sure that no staining went through the stain protection head cap. And that brings me to the next point. To protect the rest of the body, you have these two. These are what's called bodysuits. These are both sold by Volks. The one on this side, the darker color one, is version 1, and the one on the other side over here is version 2. Now, they're phasing out version 1, but if you just so happen to find a good deal on a version 1, they still work fine. The only difference is the neck. That's really the only difference, is the neck. So the neck goes all the way up underneath the doll's head. So to give you kind of an example, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but Scotty here, wait, where's the camera? She's wearing a full version 2 bodysuit, and you can't tell because A, her clothes cover pretty much her entire body, so you can't see it anyways. Here, you could see, like, her skin is exposed, but that's actually the bodysuit. And the bodysuit goes up, and it covers underneath the collar and up even underneath the head. So you can't even tell she's wearing a stain prevention outfit because A, she's wearing a lot of clothes, but B, also, you can't see, like normally you would see a cutoff on the version 1, you would see the end of the neck hole actually exposed, so you can actually see she's wearing a stain prevention thing. Whereas this version 2 of her, it goes up and inside the neck hole where the head is, so that this way you don't see any like seam lines or cutoffs, so to speak. So the version 2s are what Volks is rolling out nowadays. It's pretty much almost every single bodysuit you can buy now is going to be a version 2. But if you just so happen to have a version 1, or you find a version 1 for a good price, like you find it cheap somewhere, you could still buy it and use it, and it still works to prevent staining on your doll. It's still a very good stain prevention item. Now, it's not perfect, right? Like, same thing with the wig cap. If you leave a dark clothing on for too long, or you put contact pressure between the clothing and the actual skin, or in this case the bodysuit, the color can still transfer to the bodysuit. And if you leave it on long enough, then it'll transfer from the bodysuit onto the actual skin of the doll, and you'll still get staining. So these bodysuits are both for it doesn't matter if you buy version 1 or version 2 from Volks, they're the same price. They're about $35. No, not $35. I'm sorry. They're about $26 roughly. Again, depending on when you buy them, depending on whether the yen is stronger or weaker, it could be more than $26 or lower than $26. I think right now the conversion puts it at $24, I think, but I could be wrong. But it's relatively cheap when you think about replacing an entire doll that's $500. You see what I'm saying? Like, $26 in the long run is not bad compared to buying a whole new doll at like $25. Now there is another option which we'll go into in a little bit, but let's just stay on this topic for now. So you can buy those, right? And those are stain prevention garments. They're usually called like if you go to the Volks website and you go under the maintenance and care section, that's usually where you're going to find it. Now there's another thing here. This is sold by Volks. It's called Dolphie Dream Rescue Tape. And essentially what this is, it gives you the ability to protect your doll in certain areas. So, for instance, let's say your doll is wearing an all-white outfit. Like, the whole outfit is white, right? But they're wearing, like, I don't know, like knee-high black boots for some reason. You can actually get the tape and just tape around their shins all around the areas where it only covers the boot, and you could just protect that area of the doll and not sacrifice the rest of the doll. And what I mean by sacrificing the rest of the doll is that if your doll was wearing like a low cut v-neck shirt and you wanted to show a little cleavage for your doll, if you're wearing the stain prevention outfit, you won't see that cleavage area because it's covered by the stain prevention outfit. So if you wanted to like wear something like a bathing suit, like let's say a white bathing suit on your doll, but then they had, I don't know, knee-high boots for some reason, you could use the tape to cover any area that colored knee-high boot is covering, and you could protect your doll that way without having to sacrifice the look of a bikini on a doll, if that makes any sense, right? There are other clothing options that you could do, like a halter top, where you just want to cover the colored areas that cover the halter part, but not really cover the upper half of the chest or the shoulders of the doll. So there's a lot of different reasons to use the tape, and I think the tape is an amazing thing. Now, the adhesive on the tape, I don't know what it's made out of, but don't worry, if you stick it on your doll, it's not like the adhesive will stay on the doll when you take it off. So you're not going to have to like rub out or clean the doll's skin because there's all this adhesive from the tape. I don't know what kind of adhesive they use, but it doesn't stick to the doll. So that's a good thing, that in case you were worried about, don't worry about that. Let me see. What are people saying here? Demi says, I have the first Coco SMD Ebony. Oh, so you have the original Coco skin. So for those of you who don't know, the original Coco skin is more like a deep purple than it is now, where it's a little bit more of like a coffee bean kind of like color. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like a much darker tone. But it used to be like a dark purple or like lavender kind of thing. Demi also has several tan skins as well. Demi, I think you even have more dolls than I do now. SB Writer says, thanks. I have to be more careful with my Coco dolls now. I put them in the sunlight all the time. Yeah, I like be careful with that. Definitely be careful with that. Tempest says it's an old resin doll that was famously released in blue and green with a French resin. It was very UV reactive. Ooh, that doesn't sound very good. This doll started as sky blue. I mean, it's been like 8 years. Midwest says, you have me eyeing my new 2B and her black dress. Oh yeah, 2B's black dress, be careful. That may stain. A lot of what Volks does nowadays, they did it back in the day, but not for every single clothing. But they're doing it more so now, where they're putting a lot more white lining on the inner side of the doll clothing to help prevent stains. So I think 2B also has a white lining on the inside. I could be wrong, but some of them will have that white lining. But if you just want that extra protection, get a bodysuit, even though there's white lining on the dress. And you'll be doubly protective, so to speak. Tempest says, "Oh, are you the person on Insta that just got their Grail 2B?" Oh, okay. 2B comes with a custom stained outfit with a boob window and off-center zipper. I was quite impressed. Yes, they do have that, and there's other companies that do make bodysuits like that as well. So you don't have to buy a bodysuit from Volks, which we'll get into a little bit later. Midwest says, yes, it's a great item, but still makes me nervous. Demi says, I had more dolls than you before we first met, if you're counting resin. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Demi says, I've got like 40 resins. Oh, dang, girl. It's crazy. Midwest Smart Doll says, it does not. Demi says, I started collecting way before you, in 2008. Oh, yeah, I didn't start till 2013 was my first doll. Midwest says 9S does. Tempest Drive, yes, that's me. I'm so excited about her. I could cry. Oh, I saw that post too. That's you, Midwest. I know what post she's talking about. Congratulations. She's like, every day, LOL. So yeah, I mean, these are items that you can buy from Volks. The wig cap you can actually use on Smart Dolls and on Obitsu dolls. Now there may be some fitment issues, but you can at least tuck it underneath the wig cap if you had, like, if it was too big or something like that. But you can actually use this wig cap on any dolls, at least for the 1/3 scale. So this is something that's usable. The tape is usable for all dolls. You can use that on any doll that you would like. Now the bodysuits, it won't fit the Smart Dolls, because Smart Dolls have bigger hips and longer legs. It's not going to fit the Smart Dolls. Will it fit an Obitsu? It might, because Obitsu almost has the same proportions. I want to say almost, but I can't guarantee that because I don't have an Obitsu to try it on. But these are definitely really good items from Volks. For if you have the Dolphie Dream in particular, these are items that I think are great to have in taking care of your doll. Now, if we're talking about Smart Doll sells these things. If you have a Smart Doll, they have these stain prevention leggings. So if you buy the Hiroshima jeans, they can stain the legs because they are heavily blue dyed. Although Danny Chu has tested them, I think the Hiroshima jeans have a low chance of dyeing. The Tokyo jeans have a low chance of dyeing. But if you got the men's, there's a men's Hiroshima jeans that's like blackish, that has a high chance of dying. So you might want to get one of these stain prevention things. And they're still readily available on Smart Doll. I have these lacy ones. I don't have this one, actually. But the lacy ones, they work great. And they look kind of cool because the lace sticks out of the jeans on the upper half. So it looks kind of cool. Another thing you could get is shorts. So if you're wearing a skirt or you're wearing short shorts, you can put that for stain prevention under those. Now these... I forgot to mention the DD tape. The tape that was on there, that's also like around $6, give or take the strength of the yen and the conversion. But these things right here, these are all 30. Oh, sorry about that. These are all like $33 roughly. So if you want these, it doesn't matter if you get the lace one or these ones. They're like $33. And same thing with the shorts, which is weird. I figured the shorts would be a little bit cheaper, but they're basically $33 also if you get the shorts one. So you can buy these to help stain prevent all your leg or lower half of the doll needs. And then Danny Chu also released, which is a full bodysuit. Now this I love, and I'm disappointed at the same time. I absolutely think this is the best stain prevention bodysuit ever out of all the different companies that I've looked at. Especially because if you look at it, this whole bodysuit covers the whole lower area, right? The legs to the lower torso. But then you could see here on the top, what did I do? Oh no. On the top area here, it goes inside, like, because it has like a what do you call that thing? A waistband. So it kind of frills up inside to make sure it stays at the top, right? So it doesn't fall down and sag, but it also hides the seam, right? And same thing with the bust. If you look at the bust, it actually goes in, you can tuck it inside the bust to hide the seams. And you see the seam here, it goes into the hole. And like the seams all on the arms, like they all tuck into the sockets. So you actually don't see the edges of the bodysuit. It's like the greatest thing, and it doesn't bunch up because they all go into the socket. So unlike the Dolphie Dream where it's all one piece, when you move the body parts around, it bunches up in the arms, it bunches up like right here in the shoulder, and you could see the extra fabric bunching up. But with this, it does not. This is the greatest bodysuit I have ever seen, in my personal opinion. Now, if anyone's seen anything better, let me know, because I'm going to buy a bunch of those. But these are awesome. Here's the disappointing part. Danny Chu's phasing them out. I don't know why he's phasing them out, but he's phasing them out. Coco and tan bodysuits, all gone. They're all sold out. I don't know if he has any more plans to bring them back. And Cinnamon is the only one left. So if you do have a Cinnamon doll and you want a bodysuit to protect your girls, Cinnamon is the only skin tone color that's left. There's nothing else. Another downside to these for some people is that they're expensive. So the bodysuits we talked about with Volks, they're not as good, like at least when it comes to fitment or whatever, as well as this fitment is. But those are only like $26, give or take. These from Smart Doll, these are $75. They cost a lot more money than Dolphie Dream or even third-party companies. So if you're a little shy on spending money for a bodysuit, then this is not the bodysuit for you. But I do think that it is the greatest bodysuit ever made for these dolls. And I think you may, I haven't tried it, but I think you may be able to use it on a Dolphie Dream. You might, because all the joints where they attach for the arms and for the wrists are pretty much the same attachment sizes. So you might get away with that. And then the bust size, I know that the bust on Dolphie Dreams is very different, the way it's cut. But because this Smart Doll thing has like a waistband, I'm wondering if you can stretch it and pull it underneath the longer torso of a Dolphie Dream bust. You may be able to. But again, I never tried it, so I don't know. But it's quite possible that this could fit also on Dolphie Dreams. Now, color matching the skin tone might be a whole different thing. I don't know if the colors will match. So take your chances on the color matching. But yeah, this bodysuit is fantastic. I cannot say enough praise. If you're looking into bodysuits for a doll, this is probably the best one you'll ever get. And buy them up while they're still there, because I don't know if he's going to make any more. But I mean, I have 3 of them already, and I wish I could buy more, but they are quite pricey. Like 3 already cost me what, $150, $225 for 3 bodysuits. That's really expensive, but they are the best bodysuits I have ever used. So there's that, right? Now, if you want to get other things, there are third-party brands that are not Volks, that are not Dolphie Dreams. Now, I haven't bought every single one that's out there. There are a lot of companies that do them, but I can say for the wig cap, you can buy a silicone wig cap. This one particular I bought from Cotton Doll, which is a wig company. They sell these. Now these do work. They do prevent stains on getting through, and if it stains the wig cap, you can kind of clean it off, and to my knowledge, it won't seep through the silicone and get to the doll. So you can actually leave it on there for years on end. But the problem is, the downside is that because it's silicone and it's sitting on top of vinyl, sometimes it sticks. And when you pull it off, I don't think you're going to pull off skin tone or anything, but I don't know if it'll change coloring, right? So if it's covering here, but then this part's exposed, you might, when you take it off and reveal it, this might be a lighter color. I'm not sure. Also, the silicone will hold moisture. If you're in a very moisture heavy area where you live, it could trap moisture in there. So that's another downside to that. But it is available, and things like that, like the silicone thing, is also like around like $5-6 if you wanted to buy that. But you can get that from Cotton Doll. I have one from Cotton Doll that I've used, but I have since stopped using it, and it just sits in a drawer now. I use all the cloth ones now. But if you wanted to get, a silicone one, they are available. So I'm just letting you know they are available. They do exist. Let's see. Tempest says there's also some patterns in the free stuff section, and I am assuming when you say patterns, it's to make the bodysuits. If you're good at sewing and stuff, then great. That's fantastic. But for people like me, I don't know how to sew for my life, and I don't have the time to learn how to sew right now because I just got too many things going on. So yeah, I have to buy mine. Unless somebody wants to make me a couple, I'll pay you. Midwest Smart Doll says, you have to be careful the silicone and vinyl reaction. Left too long, it can scar or dimple the vinyl. Oh, okay. See, I never had that happen with mine, but that's a good tip. Thank you for letting everybody know. So be careful with the silicone ones, Midwest says. It could scar or dimple the vinyl. So just be aware of that. I think the silicone actually started off with resin dolls, right? Like a lot of the resin dolls use the silicone ones. I could be wrong, but the silicone does exist. Next part, you can also get third-party bodysuits. So this bodysuit in this picture that I'm showing you guys here, these are actually sold by a company called Cool Cat. So I think it's a Taiwanese, right? A Taiwanese-based company. It's called Hello Cool Cat. Like if you go to Google and you type in Hello Cool Cat, it should be the first one that comes up. And they sell two different types. You see this that has a low neck cut, and then one has a high neck cut. So same thing as the Dolphie Dream ones. These actually have a zipper in the back. The Dolphie Dream ones, the Smart Doll ones have no zippers, no pins or anything because they have the waistband. But the Dolphie Dream, the version ones have what do you call those things? The push button pins. They have those in the back, and the version 2 has a zipper now. And these dolls from Hello Cool Cat, these stain prevention outfits from Hello Cool Cat also have a zipper. Now these come in all different skin tones as well, so you can get them in normal, semi-white, tan, things like that from Hello Cool Cat, and they cost about $35 for these, but they're all one piece, just like the Volks. They're all one piece bodysuits. So yeah, if you want to get them from other companies, you can. I'm only using these two as examples because these are ones that I own. There are other companies out there that do have stain prevention bodysuits, so if you want to try them out, any kind of prevention to prevent staining is fine. Oh, Tempest says snaps. Yeah, that's what they are. They're called snaps. I couldn't think of the word. So yeah, you could try out any of those companies as well, or you could try out the Hello Cool Cat if you want to get Hello Cool Cats. Because they have other versions too. Like they have like a sparkly gold. Like I guess if you want your dolls to have like a one-piece jumpsuit kind of look, I guess you could do that. But they come in a variety of colors from Hello Cool Cat, so if you wanted to buy from them, you can get them there. But they specifically say they only fit Dolphie Dreams. So if you wanted to buy it for Smart Doll, I don't know if it'll fit. All over their website it says Dolphie Dreams, so take it for what you will. They call them the anti-color migration close-fitting clothing. It's a really long name, but that's what they call them over at Hello Cool Cat. But that's all like stuff that you could do for stain prevention, to prevent staining your dolls. These are all the different kind of products that you can look into in making sure that your doll is safe. Let me see. Marie Velez says, I don't want to start a controversy, but I don't understand the reason for Danny not to have the bodysuits available all the time. It is a needed item. I don't know why he decided that either. Maybe it's just because he got bogged down with all his other projects and he will bring them back. I don't know if he will bring them back, but maybe he'll bring them back. I don't know. Maybe if he hears enough from the community, like if we're all like, hey Danny, are you by chance making any more of those bodysuits? Like subtle hints, and then maybe he'll be like, oh, there's a market for these again, and he'll start making them. But I honestly think and this is my own personal opinion. Danny Chu didn't tell me anything. This is just my own speculation. I honestly think the reason why he's not making them anymore, or maybe he's phasing them out, is because they didn't sell very well. I think it's a combination of Smart Doll dolls, the vinyl is cooked longer, they have smaller pores, they don't stain as easily. They still stain, but they don't stain as easily. And then that you combine that with the fact that most of his clothing that you can buy from him are stain tested, so you also don't have to worry about staining there. Now again, they may stain, but they have been stain tested, so you have that little extra added of comfort, if you even want to call that comfort. And then to top it all off, if you want to get a bodysuit just to be extra careful, like myself, like I bought bodysuits for some of my dolls, then you're looking at a $75 price tag, which when you compare it to other companies like Dolphie Dream, which is around $25, Hello Cool Cat, which is around $35, you're talking about like a big difference in price for a protective wear item. So in my personal opinion, I think that's why they didn't do well. I think most people thought that it was either A, unnecessary because they think that smart dolls will never stain, or they just think it's way too expensive, and that's just that. And they're like, I'll just try it out and see what happens, and hopefully I'll never get a stain, but I'm not spending $75 for a bodysuit. That could very well be the reason why he's phasing them out. It could just be that. But if he does make them again for all the skin tone colors, I definitely want to get a tea, because I don't have a tea one. All of mine are cinnamon and milk. I would get a Coco one for when I eventually get my first Coco girl. So I want at least one of each color at the very least. And then my dolls can just swap bodies, whoever's wearing the bodysuit at that day, whenever I go out for a photo shoot or something. But they are amazing bodysuits, and I really hope that he goes back to making them again, or at least making a small batch and then like make it a seasonal item, like every winter or something he'll sell a small batch of bodysuits. I don't know. I don't know what his plans are, but I think that would be a good idea. Let's see. Midwest Smart Doll says, I haven't had that happen either, but it happened with a few of my Adika busts this last year. Oh really? What do you mean by the bust? Like they got like damaged or stained? Marie Velez says, it took me years to get 2 milk color ones for my Chitose. Yeah, because they're hard to find, and most people that have them are not willing to sell. Tempest says, oh, she says snaps, but then she says, I wish we could do pre-orders with Smart Doll things, but that can have issues with grumpy people with long wait times, and he errs on the sides of creating less places for customers to complain. Yeah, like if you remember, I don't know if you remember Tempest or anyone else in the chat, he actually used to do pre-orders for most of his dolls. Never for clothing, but he used to do pre-orders before, where you would, pre-order the doll, and as long as you pre-order, you're definitely going to get them, and then they would be sent out like a month or two later or something like that. He has since stopped doing that and has just relied on a click war. I don't know the reasoning for it. I honestly don't. There could be a myriad of reasons. I have no idea. But yeah, he doesn't do pre-orders anymore for some reason. I'm not sure why. I don't know. But he doesn't do them anymore. Marie Velez says, I need a tea and a Coco bodysuits. You and me both. I need those too. Midwest Smart Doll says, there were a few people who had the vinyl/silicone reaction on the torsos of their Smart Dolls, where the silicone bust touched the torso and it left dimples. Ooh, really? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, because the Idika doll busts are silicone. Right. So, and if that's touching the vinyl on the doll, it could have a reaction. I see what you're saying. That's a good tip. I did not know that. I was looking at those Adika doll busts. I was kind of interested in getting them because Demi actually showed me one at NecoCon, and they were really cool. I just haven't gotten around to buying one, but that's a good point. That's a good point. That might be something to watch out for. But yeah, I mean, these are all stain preventative measures that you could take. Now, moving on to the next part of stuff, let's say that your dolls got stained. You tried everything, or you were careless, or you were very protective, but eventually, at some point in time, your doll got stained, right? And you're like, darn, now the skin is stained. I need to clean it. I need to buy a new one. I need to this, I need to that, right? Well, you could do one of two things. If you go to the Volks website, they sell this. This is called Dream Rescue. You can buy this from You can buy this from Volks, and it will cost you, how much was this again? It will cost you $20. So this little tiny, and it looks small on the screen, and it's really small in person too. It's a very small like thing, and it costs you $20. But it works pretty darn well. There are instructions. If you go on the website, there's actually a YouTube video from Volks themselves on how to apply and to use the rescue cream. But essentially, long story short, if there is a part of your doll that got stained, you would take a Q-tip, take some of that stain prevention cream that's in there, put it all over the areas that were stained by the clothing or whatever, put it all over those areas, make it a nice even coat around all the stained areas, and then wrap it in saran wrap, right? And then let it sit for like 2 to 3 days, and then after that, take the saran wrap off and brush off all the things, and the stain is gone. Now, sometimes the stain could be really bad where you need to do this multiple times, like maybe 3 or 4 separate times, but eventually it'll get the stain out. Now, it is important to note that area that you applied the cream to, sometimes you get, like if you get the stain out in only one sitting, the skin will still feel the same silky smooth feeling. But if you end up having a really bad stain and you had to use the stain prevention thing on the same area like 3 or 4 times, you could lose that softness and you could have just hard vinyl left over. So do be aware of that. So yeah, it's $20 for the cream. It works pretty well from what I've seen. I've never had to use it, knock on wood. I've been very careful, but it is there for you if you need to clean your dolls. Now, if you don't feel like spending the $20, a lot of people have done research online on what are the things that you can use. And one of those is this. You can use 10% benzoyl peroxide or zit cream. Any kind of zit cream. You don't have to use this one. I just found a random picture of 10% benzoyl peroxide just to show you guys. But you can use a 10% benzoyl peroxide, aka acne cream, aka zit cream, and you can use that also to remove stains from a doll. Now, I've seen YouTube videos where people are like, put the cream on, wrap it in saran wrap, and then put it in a windowsill for the sun. And then keep it there for a few hours and then repeat the process as necessary until the stain is gone. I've never done it because none of my dolls, knock on wood, has been stained as of yet so badly where I need to use any of these products. But here's my concern, and maybe someone in chat can chime in on this, but my concern is if you put the 10% benzoyl peroxide on there, you wrap it in saran wrap, and you put it in the sun, aren't you not then also yellowing the vinyl at the same time? Because you put it in the sun, you're going to yellow that vinyl. And if you put it in the sun for like a day or two, you're going to yellow the vinyl. So I'm not so sure that those videos that I saw may be right. Because yellowing is an issue, and I don't know if I want to put it in the sun. So, I mean, take it for what you will. Now, you could also try doing it the same way as the Dream Rescue. Maybe you can just put the cream on, put it in saran wrap, let it sit for 2 days somewhere else where it's not in the sun, and then see if that works. I don't know, because again, I've never had, knock on wood, to do that and actually use the cream. I have one. I bought the Dream Rescue, and I have it in my drawers over here on my side right here, but I've never had to use it because luckily, knock on wood again, I've never had a stain that bad that required me to use it. But also they come from, if you buy the 10% benzoyl peroxide, they come in many different prices. As you all know from using zit cream, they're all different kinds of prices. You could pay $20. You could pay as low as like $3. I found this one, which is like a CVS acne cream 10% benzoyl peroxide, and that only costs like $3. So I mean, you could find them pretty much anywhere for the most part. So yeah, that's, if you get a stain on your doll, just YouTube sensei it. There's lots of videos out there on how to clean the stains from your dolls, and usually this is what they would recommend, either a Dream Rescue or they would say use 10% benzoyl peroxide. So yeah, that's basically everything for that. We're gonna go back to the other screen. So again, if you stain your dolls, you know, you can use that cream from Dream Rescue from Volks, or you can use 10% benzoyl peroxide to do the stain treatment, so to speak, to get that staining off of your doll. So that's another important thing that you probably should be aware of. Let's see. Midwest says, I also have the full Adika doll body. No issues for me. Oh, that's good. That's good. I've heard good things about the Adika doll body, though, to be honest. Very good things about that. Temper Strife says, squish. Haruhi says, I tried it and it really takes a longer time to remove, but still have some dark spots left behind. Thank goodness the stain is hidden in the legs area, not shown on my dolls. Yeah, I've heard about that too. Like, if the stain is really bad, it gets to the point where no matter how many times you apply it, it probably won't 100% get rid of the coloring that are there. And at that point, you're just going to have to buy new parts, which leads me into the next section that I was going to talk about. But we're going to talk about in a second. Melanie Chieson, welcome to the stream, Melanie. I'd be scared to put my doll in the sun. Yeah, I would too for that. Tempest says, I think the idea is to warm the vinyl to open the pores to get the peroxide into the pores. A heat gun must also work sparingly. Yeah, I think maybe that's what they were going for, because that does make sense now that you mention it, to open up the pores by heating it up to get that peroxide to get in. That may be why people are putting in the sun, but I still, again, I wouldn't put it in the sun then. If that was the case, I'd just get a heater, like a dryer, and heat up the skin and apply the cream that way. I definitely would not recommend putting it in the sun. Marie Velez says, yes, OxyCream has been used for decades to remove green ears from the vinyl on Barbie dolls, but it has to be done carefully and only in the stained areas. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that with everybody here. Because, again, staining is a huge issue with these dolls, and it can happen to any of them. Can happen to Dolphie Dream, definitely. Can happen to Smart Doll. It can happen to Obitsu vinyl dolls. So just be aware of the staining. Be aware of the different things you can do to prevent the staining, and be aware of, the 10% benzoyl peroxide or the Dream Rescue Cream, because that stuff are lifesavers when it comes to it. But that brings it to the next section I want to talk about. So if the staining on the doll is so bad that you tried everything, the stain prevention, it went through the stain prevention clothing, it went into the doll, then you tried to use the Dream Rescue, you tried to use 10% peroxide, and you still can't get it out, worst comes to worst, the greatest thing that I could say about Volks and Dolphie Dream is replacement parts. I think that's one of the really awesome things about Volks, is that they have replacement parts for everything. Even the internal frame. If you break something like a joint, they have other pieces that you can buy. You can buy an arm joint, a leg joint or whatever, a hip joint, and you can replace that. Same thing with the skin. So if you stain the arm, you stain the leg, you stain the bust, the torso, all those pieces are sold separately, and you can replace them. So if you ever damage them, like if you rip the vinyl, because that can happen, like if you were just you didn't realize, and you turn around while holding your doll and it nicked the corner of a table and the corner ripped the vinyl, that can happen. You can buy a replacement part. You get a new leg, a new arm piece, all those parts you can buy directly from Volks in all the skin tone colors, except for maybe white, because white is phased out. I haven't seen them sell white. So if you just so happen to have the old school white color, like the pure white color, you may not be able to find replacement parts for that at all. But semi-white, tan, flesh skin tone color, they're all available from Volks. Tan will be a lot harder to get though, because tan is seasonal, and tan is only sold in Japan. They don't sell them on the website. So tan is going to be the hardest replacement parts to get. Flesh is everywhere. You can get flesh anytime, anywhere, everywhere. Semi-white is pretty much available all the time, and mostly because a lot of people mostly have semi-whites, so they keep them pretty regularly stocked. Tans are a little bit more rare, and they're only sold in Japan, so it's harder to get your hand on tan parts. So when I went to Japan, personally, when I went to go to Japan, and I got my tan girl, I got a mini Dolphie Dream I bought, I bought a bunch of extra replacement parts while I was there. So I have a whole drawer full of replacement parts for my tan girl because it's hard to get your hands on them. So if I ever need to replace anything, I got some extra parts. I don't have to worry about it. But you don't have to go that route. You know, I told you I'm paranoid. So I have some extra parts. But I think that's the greatest thing about Volks is that replacement parts are so easily available to you, and even the tan ones, even though it's not so easily available, the fact that it's just available for you to buy is just amazing. A-Zone and Obitsu parts are also available, but I don't know really where to get them. I do know that they sell the parts. I don't know if you have to go to the A-Zone store or if you have to go to Ami. Like, again, I'm not very knowledgeable with A-Zone stuff yet. I probably will make myself more familiar when I finally get my first A-Zone doll. But I'm not really sure where you can buy the replacement parts, but I do know that they have replacement parts. That much I do know. Smart Doll is different. Danny Chu does not sell replacement parts. So you can't get replacement parts other than like bust sizes. But I don't know if you really want to call that more so a replacement part, as in just changing your bust sizes and having different versions. But it's not like if you damage a leg or an arm, you could just buy parts from Smart Doll. It for whatever reason, Danny Chu doesn't sell replacement parts. He does have a warranty though. So if you did buy your doll and like for whatever reason it came to you in the mail broken, he does have a warranty. You know, you just send him an email, let him know what happened, and he'll work it out with you. I don't know how he works it out with you, but he'll do something with your doll and you know, get you a replacement part. But he doesn't have replacement parts readily available. For like example, if my Chitose I bought back in 2013, right? And like if I broke her arm, I can't just go on the Smart Doll website and buy a new arm and replace it. Well, one, because milk is no longer available. But even if it was a cinnamon doll, you can't just like buy a replacement arm and just like, you know, from Smart Doll and replace it. So that's something that you need to be aware of if you are a Smart Doll owner or want to be a Smart Doll owner. That's just something that's not really available to you. So if you happen to have a Smart Doll that for whatever reason you were negligent or you forgot to check your doll or something and the entire body got stained because they were wearing a black dress, you essentially would have to buy a whole new doll to get a whole new body from Smart Doll, because you can't buy the bodies. Although he did for a very short time, if you go to the Chaos section, he was selling bodies, like just straight up bodies, in Cinnamon, Tea, and Coco. So he did do that, but it's not readily available all the time. So I guess you kind of have to like keep an eye out on the website or on his Twitter page, where he would have like different times where he'll tweet out, hey, the Chaos section has extra feet or extra hands or extra body or extra busts, and then you could get your replacement part that way, if it just so happened to be available in Chaos, or if you do the Utter Chaos bundles, where you can buy 1, 2, or 3 bundles for the Utter Chaos, sometimes there are doll parts in there, either shin replacements, arm replacement, torso replacements. Sometimes there's actually internal skeleton frame replacements in there as well. But again, it's not something that you could just be like, I want this specific part, I want to buy that. Smart Doll doesn't do that. So you just gotta be aware of that if you have a Smart Doll. Marie Velez says, absolutely, Volks has the best replacement options. Yeah, they do. They definitely do. When it comes to replacement parts, they definitely have a good thing going with that. Haruhi says, I had ordered a blue skin tone Smart Doll zombie. Oh, the Anomaly, okay. Which I would like to know, is there any risk to stain her easily? She is my first blue skin tone doll. It's just like any other doll. It'll stain. Whether it's blue, tan, cocoa, cinnamon, all the dolls are made out of vinyl and all of them will stain. So you just need to be aware of that. And I think we covered it earlier. I don't know if you were here earlier, but they can yellow and turn green if you have a blue doll. So be careful with the sun. Tempest says, I desperately need ankle parts for Smart Doll. She also says, Haruhi, I would say probably as stainable as normal skin Smart Dolls, just like more UV reactive. Yeah, yeah, same thing I said. It'll definitely stain It doesn't matter if it's interstellar blue, it'll still stain. It's vinyl, and that's the part that makes it stain. It's just because it's vinyl. Yeah, so you need ankle parts. I mean, you could try your luck in Utter Chaos, and you might get ankle parts in an Utter Chaos. But again, you have to do Utter Chaos, which means that it's not guaranteed you'll get that. Although a lot of people do buy Utter Chaoses and have parts they don't need, and they sell them on eBay or Mercari or in doll form. So you might be able to find replacement pieces sold from another owner that got it in their Utter Chaos bundles. Haruhi says, I also ordered Coco Skin Tone Smart Doll 2. I liked to know about this doll. Care tips too. Thank you. You're welcome, Haruhi. It doesn't matter what skin tone you have. All these like tips and maintenance things applies to all the skin tones. Tempest says, once upon a time he would replace any broken pieces. I think earlier on in his days of Smart Doll, like back in 2013 or 2012, I believe, there were a lot of things that were different with the company then. Like back then you could pre-order parts. Back then you just sent him an email, showed him parts that were broken, and he would just send you a replacement part for free. There were a lot of things that he did differently back in the day that he doesn't do now. And I think it was much easier for him to do that way back in the day too. Like when he first started the company, for him to say, oh, if you need a replacement part, I'll give it to you for free. No problem. Because he was a brand new company. He was very small. He didn't have a large customer base that he has now. Like he has a worldwide customer base. Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people buying Smart Dolls. There's no way financially viable he could give you free replacement parts now to all those people. And then verifying whether or not it was a broken piece that came from Smart Doll, or someone was just careless and ended up breaking their doll, or somebody else broke someone else's doll by accident, whatever it had be. There's just no way he could do all those free replacements. This is just not feasible. But it would be nice if he started selling replacement parts. That would be nice. Just kind of like how he sells like different hand packs, how he has the prosthetic shin packs, things like that. It would be nice if he did sell replacement parts, but whether or not he will, I have no idea. It's his company, his decision. He could do what he wants. And that's the best thing about owning your own business, is that you want to be your own boss, right? So he can run his company however he sees fit. But if he were to carry replacement parts, I think a lot of people would be into that. I think a lot of people would be into replacement parts. Let's see. Haruhi says, thank you, Tempest Drive, for telling me. Okay, so right, so let's keep moving on. Let me get a drink because I'm super thirsty. I've been talking for a while. Hold on. ASMR, sorry if you don't like that sound. My bad. But I am thirsty. Okay, so we talked about different things to look out for when carrying and maintaining your doll, different ways to stain prevent things from your doll, and how to take care of your doll if it had been stained, God forbid. The next thing I want to talk about is traveling and taking your dolls outside and proper doll etiquette, right? So I kind of covered this multiple times as we were talking about things, like all throughout today's stream. But when you're traveling with your doll, there's a couple things that I think are really good tips. So for me personally, if I have a doll that has really dark clothing, I would remove all the clothing and just have the doll naked, right? And I would wrap the dolls in a white towel or white fabric. Any kind of fabric would do. Like I even use pillowcases, like white pillowcases sometimes, and I'll wrap them in that. And then I'll put them in the bag or the suitcase, whatever it is I'm using to transport them, and I transport them that way. And then when I would take them out, if they had dark clothing, I would dress them wherever it was that I was to take a picture or to go to a con or whatever. And then when I was done with them, I would undress them, wipe them in the white towel, and then put them into the bag. Now, if they had light color clothing, like let's say they're wearing a sundress that you know that it's not going to stain, then I would just leave them in whatever clothing they have. But I would still wrap them in a white towel or a white pillowcase, or like I said, any kind of white fabric, and then I would put them in the bag. So I have the Smart Doll Carrier, the Mirai Carry. When I put my dolls in that, I do not wrap them in white cloth, but I do use the white pillowcase because the pillowcase is very, very thin. So I would wrap them in the white pillowcase and then put them into the Smart Doll Carrier. But if I'm using my suitcase, like I built my own custom suitcase specifically for these dolls. Now, I know that you watching this probably does not have this because I just made it for myself, and I don't know if any other company makes it, but I made a rolling suitcase that I made myself, and it's white lined all over the inside, and it has compartments for dolls to sit in. So I have a rolling suitcase that has 3 compartments, so it can hold 3 dolls, and then the other side of the suitcase holds all the accessories and clothing. But I have that all wrapped in white, and then I still, even at that point, I would wrap my dolls in a white cloth and put them in the compartment in there, and then transport them that way. And the reason why I do that is that white won't stain, so you don't want to use a black cloth or a blue cloth. White doesn't stain. It'll keep them dry, if it's a moist day. Don't use like terry cloth, something that will like absorb a lot of water, because then it's very humid out, then it'll just keep your dolls wet. Use something that has like a high drying tolerance. That's why I say pillowcases work really well, or some kind of white fabric. So I have that, and I always wrap them in that white. Now, it keeps them from staining from anything else also. So if I'm not using my white lined suitcase and I use a bag, if that bag has like a colored interior, then the white that the doll's wrapped in protects it from staining from anything else it would touch. Another thing that I like to wrap my dolls in a white cloth is because their hair. I don't normally take the wig off, right? So if you put them in a bag and their wig is still on the body, and you're walking around with this bag and it's bouncing up and down. It's in a rolling suitcase. It's bouncing up and down from the ground. If it's in a backpack, it's bouncing up and down in the backpack. Their wig gets all sorts of frizzy and blown out in all different places. And then when you take your doll out, it's a nightmare. And you just got to comb it and fix your doll hair like crazy. And you're sitting there for like 10 minutes trying to fix it, right? So that's another thing you got to watch out for. So that's why I wrap the dolls in white also, because then it keeps the hair in place. So if you wrap their head in white, in a white fabric, it keeps the hair in place. So no matter how much they're bouncing around, the hair's not flying everywhere, right? So that's another good way to keep the hair from bouncing all over the place if you don't take the wigs off of the doll. Now, if you take the wig off of the doll, you could still wrap the doll in white just to protect it. But then that whole thing about keeping the wig in place, that's nothing to worry about, because I'm assuming if you take the wig off, you would put the little white paper inside the wig cap to keep it shape, and then you would put it in the netting, like a wig cap netting, to keep it in a safe place, and then put it in the bag. So that's what I personally do. And I've seen other doll owners do the same thing about wrapping their dolls in white. So that's one of my best tips that I can give you when you're traveling with the doll in a bag. Or suitcase or anything like that. If you're going to Japan, or you're going to fly anywhere, put your dolls in carry-on. I wouldn't suggest putting your dolls in a suitcase and then having them put that under the plane, because in the plane, when it goes up in the air, it's not temperature controlled in the cargo bay, so it gets really cold. And that could affect the skin of the dolls. Now, I know that's me being paranoid, because, and I can 100% guarantee you that's just me being paranoid, because when you buy your dolls from Smart Doll, they go on a plane. And they're not temperature controlled in that plane either. They're just in the cargo hold. So it's a stupid thing to worry about. I know it's a dumb thing to worry about. But me personally, when I traveled to Japan, Chitose was in my carry-on with me. I made sure I took her with me, because then she's not in the cold cargo bay area. Also, when I came back from Japan, I came home with 3 more dolls. I bought 2 mini Dolphie Dreams, and then I bought a Dolphie Dream for a friend that I took home with me. So I had 4 dolls in my carry-on with me. And I remember when I went through customs, they were like, "Open your bag, please." And I opened it, and the guy looked inside and he saw these dolls, and then he looked at me, And he looked inside, and then he looked at me, and then he was like, okay, you could go. It was a very awkward moment, but he was just like looking at all these dolls. And by the way, the dolls were naked, right? Because I didn't want them to to have any color staining. So they were all naked in my bag. And so he's looking at these naked dolls, and then he's looking at me. And I know he was thinking I was some kind of pervert or something. It was a very awkward customs agent moment. But I mean, you don't have to travel with them naked. That was just again, I'm very paranoid. So I do all these weird things that I guess normal people wouldn't do just to make sure that I don't get any stainings or any problems with my dolls. I'm very paranoid kind of person when it comes to my dolls. So when you're traveling, just make sure, to cover them some kind of white fabric or white cloth to make sure that they're protected in whatever bag or suitcase you put them in. That's one of the biggest things that I could definitely say. Also, if you're wearing a backpack, just be mindful. If you're walking through heavy cities like New York City or Tokyo, a lot of people will bump into you. So just be mindful of where in your backpack your doll is, and just try to shield, that area of your back. If you're carrying them in those Dolphie Dream carry cases, those long carry cases, when I get into a crowded area, I don't hold it by the handles anymore. I kind of hold it like this, like as I'm holding a pillow, and when I'm in a really crowded area, because I don't want people bumping into and kicking the doll bag, as they're walking by, or hitting it, because that happened to me once. I was in New York City. I was holding my Dolphie Dream, my long Dolphie Dream bag. I was just holding it like this, and I was walking through. Some lady was walking past me, swinging her purse, and she smacked the hell out of the doll bag with her purse. Now, she apologized. She said sorry, and I said, that's okay. Thank you for saying sorry. But, she still hit it, and I had to open up the bag to make sure that my doll was okay. So, be careful when you're walking around. Just be mindful of how you carry your dolls in crowded areas. When you go to conventions, I know we talked about this before prior in the stream, but if you go to conventions or you go to doll meets and things like that, just, don't put them on display in somewhere where there's a lot of sun, because you don't want a lot of direct sunlight on your doll. But also just be mindful of the people that come to interact with you, especially individuals that are not current doll owners themselves, and they're not and I want to believe that they're not doing it on purpose, but they can touch your dolls all over with sticky hands, not know how to handle them, try to move them around really fast. They might break a joint. And they're just doing it because they think that it's like any other doll, that they can treat it like a Barbie or something like that. They just don't know, right? So, and it's not their fault because they're not a current doll owner. They don't know the things. So I always make it a point to explain to people that if they want to see my doll, I say, that's fine. You can take all the pictures you want. You want to hold them, that's fine. But these are the rules, right? I tell them, please don't touch the face. Try not to bend all the joints. If you want me to show you how they bend, I can show you how they bend, but try not to move them around too much because they are very delicate in a way. And even though they are, especially if you have a smart doll, they're pretty robust. Dolphie Dreams are a lot more delicate, but I usually, with people that don't know, I usually just say that it's delicate. So at least they know to handle it with care. So just be mindful of that, because when you go out in public with these dolls, you will get mixed reactions. You'll have the people that don't understand the hobby, who are judgmental, and they will yell at you. They'll say mean things to you. They'll be very mean. I had one guy try to push over my dolls. Luckily, I got in between. He wasn't able to. I've had people throw things. I know it sounds hard to believe, right? But when very early on in my doll owning career, I took my dolls a lot of different places. You can see it on my channel. I have a lot of things where I did travel to New York City. I traveled to cons. I did a lot of photography videos. And there's a lot of times where I was out in public and there are people who are just mean. They're just not nice. And they've done things to try to harm my dolls, and just be mindful that those people do exist, and just try to make sure that you protect your dolls as best you can. But those people are very small portion of the population that you will meet. I know I just talked about a whole bunch of different scenarios, and they all did happen to me, but this is over years span of doing this. So I don't want you to feel scared to take your dolls out and think that, oh, everyone's going to try to harm my doll and everyone's going to yell at me and make fun of me. No, no, no. Those are the outliers. That's like 5% of the time of taking my dolls out that's actually happened. Majority of the time, people will just look and stare. They won't even say anything. They'll just look at you and stare because they don't understand it. They don't know the hobby. And then there are the other people who are super, super nice. They come up with you and they're like, that is so beautiful. That is so cute. Where did you buy it? I want one. Can I hold it? Can you tell me more about it? Like, those people I love talking to because I just love talking about dolls in general. So like, and you'll run into a lot of those people more so than any other people, because a lot of people just don't know the hobby, and when they see it, they're just really curious and they'll always come over and ask you questions, and they're usually, for the most part, really, really nice. So just be aware that when you take your dolls out in public, just be aware of the people that are around you. Just be mindful of that. And especially when you go to conventions or cons or doll meets, just be mindful of the people that aren't current doll owners, and just make sure that they understand, if you have certain rules when touching your dolls, or just be nice about it. Just be like, oh, I don't normally let people touch my dolls. If you want, I can show you different parts of the doll, but whatever. Everybody has their own little quirks, right? I'm super paranoid, but even though I'm paranoid, I let people touch my dolls all the time. I just give them ground rules kind of thing. I'm like, don't touch the face, clean your hands. I have Purell if you want. You could clean your hands, things like that. So just be mindful of your surroundings is all I got to say. So we are at the 2-hour mark. Wow, we've been talking a lot about dolls. Now, obviously, there is a lot more things that we can talk about when it comes to stain prevention and maintenance and things like that. But these are the bare bone basics that I believe everybody should know when getting into this hobby or in this hobby already. These are just standard things that I think everybody should be aware of and should know. We can delve into other things, but that would be in for another day, another episode, because like most topics that we've covered so far, there's just so much information that if we wanted to take a deep dive, we would have to make a episode specifically for that one thing. But I think today we've covered up a lot of really good information, a lot of things that needed to be said for new owners and current owners or soon to be owners. Hopefully all of this information was, helpful for you all. Let me see. Let's go back to chat for a second here, because I kind of got on a tangent and I didn't look at what you guys were saying in chat. Shipping time for ordering here in Singapore is very slow. How about your country and other countries' time? It's the same. So you're from Singapore, Haruhi? Well, for me, I'm on the East Coast of the United States, and I actually just bought something from Smart Doll on Monday, right? And it arrived at my house on Wednesday. So 2 days it came here for shipping. That was DHL too. I don't know if you had the DHL option for you, Haruhi, but DHL was really fast. I got it in 2 days. Now, there could be different reasons for that. Maybe I was one of the first people to order that day, so they packaged my thing and it went out the same day. But Danichu does make a mention when you purchase something off his website that the shipping time could be 7-14 days or whatever, how many days. I don't remember the exact number he used, but it's not going to be instant all the time, because maybe he has like 100 things to pack and he couldn't get to yours that day, so he packed it the next day and sent it out. Basically what happened. So I'm not sure what courier they used for shipping to Singapore, but if it's DHL, it should come relatively quickly. I've always had my packages come within at latest a week. So I'm not really sure per se, but that's how long it takes for me. I would expect it to be sooner for you though in Singapore too, because you're much closer to Singapore and Japan. So I'm kind of surprised if it's very, very slow for you. Again, it could be the service they're using. Maybe they're just using regular EMS airmail, and that might be why it's slow. But if you pay DHL shipping, like if DHL ships to Singapore, then it would definitely be faster, I would think. Tempest says, we should have a section on joint maintenance and care. We can, but again, that would be a whole nother thing, because then you would have to talk about opening up the doll, and if it's Dolphie Dream, managing the screw, tightening the screw tensions, and then opening up the joints and greasing the joints, because sometimes joints can get a little dry with grease. So those are other things, but those are more so something that you would run into later on in the doll's life, like on older dolls. Or dolls that you have exposed to a lot of water and the grease was run out or the screw got corroded or something like that. But it normally you wouldn't have to address those things on newer dolls. So this is more so I'm just covering maintenance and care for new people and for new dolls and things that you should be aware of going forward in time. But yes, joint care can be its own section for sure, 100%. Midwest Smart Doll says jealous of the mirror I carry. He's made posts before of mirror I carry version 2 that he's working on, so you may have an opportunity to get a mirror I carry in the future, but I don't know how long it'll take for him to get to that point. Marie Velez says, oh, I would love to see your suitcase. Maybe I'll do a video on the suitcase, but it would be a very short video because there's not much to show. But yeah, I did custom make a suitcase. Those of you that have met me in person at conventions, I'm pretty sure all of you have probably seen the suitcase because I bring it to every single convention I go to. It's the easiest way to transport my dolls when I go to cons because I bring a lot of dolls to show people at cons. Let's see, Marie Velez. I travel with my dolls all the time. I use white towels. Yeah, white towels are good. They definitely use those, just not the super soaky kind, like the really thick ones that can absorb a lot of water. Just be careful with those. Use like the thinner, like terry clothish kinds. Those are pretty good. Haruhi says, for traveling around, when I used to use a backpack to travel with my Luca and Moment, I used double bubble wrap with cushion cover and put it in my backpack for traveling. Thank you for your tips. Yeah, you could do that too. So I've seen people transport their dolls with they don't do it anymore, but Smart Doll used to send your doll in a bubble wrap. Now it's just a clear plastic bag that they put them in, but they used to be in this thick bubble wrap, and I've seen a lot of people use that same bubble wrap to put their dolls in for transport, like whenever they go places. So yeah, you can definitely use bubble wrap in your backpacks as well. That definitely works too. Marie Velez says, I agree, my dolls travel on my carry-on always. The clothing and accessories go in the check bag. Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. Tempest Strife said, I just bring the Cortex now, so much less stress. I know. I'm so mad. Well, I shouldn't say mad. I'm disappointed that Cortex is no longer around. So for those of you that are watching that don't know, Danny Chu created Smart Dolls that were called Smart Doll Cortex, and they were made out of plastic instead of vinyl. These things were amazing. You had to build them yourself, although you could buy them pre-built, but it cost you more money. But essentially, they didn't stain. And they don't rip and they don't tear. They are the most robust things. They can break because it's hard plastic. They can shatter, but they're so like durable. So now when I go to a place that I know might be problematic, I would take my one Cortex doll with me and just swap the heads out. Like I put Chatose's head on the Cortex body so that I know that she's safe and I don't have to risk the body. But unfortunately, Cortex is gone and discontinued. I'm really sad about that. I really should have bought at least one Cortex in every skin tone. I honestly didn't. I only have milk and cinnamon. I should have gotten at least one of each, and now it's gone. And you can never get it again. I wish Danny Chu would make them again. I know the reason why he wouldn't. There's like a lot of reasons why he wouldn't, but I wish he would do them like seasonally at least. I think seasonally would be amazing if he would do it, but yeah, I miss Cortex. Cortex was so good, and it didn't get the love it deserved. A lot of people were criticizing it. They were, and even me, I was one of them. I was like, well, between Cortex and vinyl, I personally really like the vinyl, and I said that in many videos. I prefer vinyl. But now looking back on it and how great Cortex is, I should have bought more Cortex. I should have championed Cortex more and supported it more than I actually did. I liked Cortex when it came out. I really did. But I should have given it more support. And maybe that would have made Danny, not that my opinion matters, but if I gave it more support and I told more people about it and they spread the word, then maybe Danny would have kept them. I don't know. But Cortex, I'm so sad that it's gone. Cortex was amazing. Midwest Smart Doll says, I haven't traveled with a Smart Doll yet. Ironically, I've only bought my small resin boy. but I am thinking of bringing one of my girls on my business trip next week. I mean, do it. Definitely do it. It's fun bringing your girls with you and taking pictures wherever you go. I think it'll be a lot of fun and you'll enjoy it. Tempest says, God, I wish Pocket Doll would come to fruition. It's being worked on. Don't worry. He's working on it. It's coming. Midwest Doll says, no touchy the face. I know. No touchy the face. Haruhi says, wow, wow, wow. Soon you will be able to break the world record for a long live chat video. Nah, I'm not going to break that. Carmen says, yes, very informative. I'm a new collector. Haruhi says, yes, I'm from Singapore. Half Japanese and Chinese. Thanks for your order shipping info. Melanie says, I went on a hunt for cracked and broken thighs and shoulder ports on my Dolphie Dreams. I had to buy a lot of metal pieces to fix them. I'm always gentle and careful, but it happens. They do also sell metal joint reinforcements from other companies, especially the Hello Cool Cat. They have metal joint reinforcements if you want to buy it from them. That's definitely something that's available. Tempest says, I would have gotten a kit in every color over 5 years. Yeah, I definitely would have gotten a kit in every color too. Midwest says, I have a real love-hate relationship with my Cortex body. I know what you mean. They are finicky, but I still love them to death now. They can be finicky though, for sure. Tempest says, but I couldn't drain my account as fast as the line ended. For sure. They were cheaper than getting vinyl dolls, but they were still quite expensive though. I mean, it's not like they were that much of a difference. But Cortex was definitely awesome. Marie Velez says, I liked Cortex, but I was not comfortable with building the doll myself. Yeah, that's true. A lot of people weren't comfortable with that, but he did give you the option to buy them pre-built if you wanted them. But they did cost more money because I think if you bought the one that you had to build everything yourself, I think it came out to around $220, I think it was. But if you bought one that was pre-built, it was very close to a vinyl doll. It was like $410 or something like that. So, yeah, unless you were building it yourself, it wasn't that much of a money save. Melanie says, that's what I got. Oh. Okay, so you got the Hello Cool Cat joint reinforcements. Yeah, those joint reinforcements. Those joint reinforcements are pretty good. I mean, I don't own them myself, but I have a friend of mine that does, and they showed me how they put them on and everything. And I thought it was always cool, but I just never got around to buying them because I don't use my dolls as much as everybody thinks I do. I have a feeling that everybody thinks I use my dolls all the time and I take them out all the time. And yes, I do, but it's mostly just Chitose. Usually all my dolls sit in their display case for the rest of their lives. And they only come out for cons or for photo shoots. And the only doll I really use all the time is Chitose. Like, she comes pretty much everywhere with me whenever I go out. So that's how one of the ways that I keep my other dolls safe and sound and working properly and not looking so disheveled, because most of the time they sit in the display case. Melanie says, my Akira had both her shoulder ports completely snapped in half, and so I checked the rest of my dolls. Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. That really does suck. That could be, it doesn't even necessarily have to be wear and tear, because you got to remember, these things are plastic. And plastic, the internal frame is plastic, and plastic can become brittle in time. So, it could happen to anybody, really. And like I said, knock on wood, I haven't had that issue with my dolls yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened to my dolls because I don't have joint reinforcements on any of them. So that can happen. All right, so we've been talking for a long time. We are coming to an end of today's episode. But before we end the episode, we got to do this week's Dream Doll section, right? So I have a Dream Doll section, and I got a little carried away this week. We're actually going to cover 2 separate Dream Dolls this week. And it's a very, very particular theme of Dream Doll this week. I got really, really into Japanese sports anime. For whatever reason, I've been watching them a lot lately. So, here we go. So the Dream Doll section, right? Here's my first choice. Now, a lot of people may not know of either of these animes, but these are some of my favorite animes, and I have a Dream Doll for each of them. So the first one is this. I don't know how many people know this anime or are aware of this anime. Oh, wait, I didn't change the thing over. That's why you didn't see it. Oops, hold on. There we go. Okay, so the first one is this. Oops, too fast. Does anybody know this anime? Anybody know this one? Any takers? No? It doesn't seem like anyone knows this. I didn't think anybody would know this, to be honest. I didn't think anyone would know this. This one is called Saki, S-A-K-I. And it's basically it's about a Japanese competitive mahjong club. And if you've never played mahjong, you see the tiles here? It's basically like playing poker in a way. It's like playing poker but with tiles, right? Like mahjong tiles, and they have like different like numbers and letters. Like, you know how you have like 2 of spades or 3 of hearts? They have something similar where they say 3 sticks or 3 balls or 3 flowers. They have like their own little thing. So it's a competitive high school mahjong club. And if you've never seen the anime, or if you don't know what mahjong is, they kind of teach you as the show is going. It's a really cute show. It's a lot of fun, and it's very Japanese sports anime-ish. Even though it's not like a physical sport, it's got that genre type feel to it. And the main character is this one over here, is Miyanagi. And she is the one that I want to talk about. So let's go and move this over. So here you go. This is the character from Miyanagi, and she's the main character. She's my favorite character. And you can see on the tiles here, you'll see the different things it represents. Like, see here, there's 5 balls, there's 3 sticks. This one they call characters, or the man. So there's 3 characters. Different kinds of things. This is like east, I think. This is an east tile. This is a west tile, I think, or something like that. I forgot the kanji, to read kanji. But it's a really good show, and I highly recommend it if you're into like sports anime kind of vibe feeling. But Miyanagi here is very cute, and I have a couple suggestions for her, for a dream doll. So if anyone were to make a dream doll of Saki, I would definitely buy it, whether it's Volks or, you know, Obitsu or Smart Doll or whoever. But if you're going to make a custom one, here are my suggestions. You have DDH6, DDH8, DDH17, and DDH21. I think either of these 4 heads would be very good candidates for Miyanagi. Especially DDH6 and DDH8, I think, are really good eye shapes for her. Because she kind of has like this ditzy look all the time, and like this carefree look, unless you got her angry in a match. Like if she had a match where she's like really angry, you know, like she'll see the fire come out of her eyes and the lightning behind her. It gets kind of dramatic. But it's a really good show. But anyways, they both have the rounder faces, which I really like, which Tempest is like, now we have the Volks round face. Yes, they have much rounder faces, which very much so fits her character, because I believe in the show she's a freshman, so she's a younger age teenager. So like the rounder, more chubby cheek face, these definitely work for the DDH 6 and 8. I think also this other one on the bottom, the 21, looks good with the eye shape, and the mouth especially looks really good. That can also work. And over here for the 17, I think the eye shape works really nice. The mouth can be changed because she doesn't usually smile like that, but it'll definitely work. But I think those are my recommendations. Tempest says 8. Yeah, I think 8 would probably be the best one for her, especially since they're both tilted the same way. It's a lot easier to kind of picture it, but they kind of do look really good. But these are my picks if it was a Dolphie dream. Now, for Smart Doll, it's a little bit harder because Smart Doll doesn't make too much of the round face, but this is what I came up with. So if you were to do a Smart Doll version, I think Mirai would work and Starlight would work, because both of these girls have the big round doughy eyes, which I think is really good for her character. And then you could try having somebody expertly mod the mouth to make it a little bit more open mouth so that it would kind of match her look, or whatever look. Because, I mean, you could give her the angry face too, and you could use something like Kanata, or you can use Moment. If you're using her competitive angry face, you could probably use those characters. But for this particular picture, which is the kind of the face that she usually has for most of the show, is this kind of like ditzy look, I think Mirai or Starlight would really fit if you're using Smart Doll heads. But that's my choice for Dream Doll this week. If you guys have any suggestions for Dream Doll to cover, let me know in the comment section down below. I didn't see any from last week, and a lot of people really like the take on Spy Family from last week that I did. So I think I kind of took the thunder out of the sails, because Spy Family is just such a big anime right now that that's the first thing that people pop in their heads, like if they were going to make a doll. But yeah, I think I picked more obscure anime this week because I'm really into watching sports anime lately for some reason. I'm also watching this anime. It's called Wakara na Yaga or something like that. It's basically rock mountain climbing as a sport in Japan. So it's a rock mountain climbing sport, and that's a really good show too. I thought that was a lot of fun. But this one in particular, I think Miyagi looks good with either of these heads, right? She's saying number 6 head for Dolphie Dream and Mirai would be nice from Haruhi. Yeah, I think so too. I really do. I think those would be good ones as well. Let's see. And then I also picked this other one. So let's move on to the next one. I just have to adjust the camera here. All right, so the next show I picked is this one. How many people know this show or heard of this show? This is another one of those sports anime. It's called Surune. And basically it's about a Kyudo club. If you don't know what Kyudo club is, it's basically archery club. It's a high school archery club. And I'm actually a practitioner of Kyudo. I'm not ranked. I never took any of the exams to get a rank. I just do it casually at a school. And so I like the Japanese archery Kyudo program, and I'm a student of Kyudo. So I thought this anime was really cool and a lot of fun to watch. And the main character here, which is going to be Minato Narumiya, if I'm saying that right, and that's this gentleman here. So I haven't done a Dream Doll boy before, so here's my take on Dream Doll boy. So if you wanted to create a boy character specifically from Surune and specifically Minato, these are what I would think. Now, I didn't see too many good choices to use for him in either Dolphie Dream or Smart Doll. Mainly because they don't have many boy type faces, but I know that you can modify a girl head to look like a boy. It's just I don't have that vision, right? Like I lack that vision to see it happen until somebody actually does it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can do that. Like I really have a really bad vision of seeing something that's not really there, if that's the right way to phrase it, I guess. But yeah, I think Surune, it would be another one of my favorite sports animes that I want to do a Dream Doll for. Now, if I were to do it, if it's a Smart Doll, Gemini. I think Gemini's face could work. The nose is a little too big, so maybe that could be shaved down a little bit. But the mouth would be nice, and I think the eye shape works perfectly for Minato specifically. The only problem with Gemini is that he's discontinued. So if you were to make this, you would have to find a Gemini head somewhere, and I don't know how many of those are really laying around. Now, if you were to use a girl's head, you could probably use maybe like, I don't even know who would work with this. In Envisage, maybe Envisage would work. She may work if you can use her head to modify to a Minato. That might work. But if you use Dolphie Dream, this is the best one I could find. I thought it was a DDH-16. I think if you use a DDH-16 head, I think this actually looks really close to what Minato actually looks like. You just change the eyes to green, change his hair to kind of like a short green bob, and I think we got Minato right here, or a short black. I mean, it's kind of greenish in this picture, but he really has black hair. But yeah, I think if you use a DDH-16, this might work for Minato. But yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's just my take on Dream Doll this week, either for Miyagi or for Minato, whichever one, you guys strike your fancy. Maybe I introduce you guys to new anime you never would have watched, and maybe you're curious and watch it now. I highly suggest, if you like sports anime, that I think you would like either of these shows. Try out Saki or try out Surune. I love those shows, and it may not be your cup of tea, but try it. I don't know. Next week, or not next week, next episode of Beyond the Doll, I'll try and choose something of a more recent or more popular anime that most people can identify with. But I only picked these two shows because, like I said, I've just been in like a sports anime-ish type binge right now. So I kind of like just pick these anyways. Tempest says, isn't the 16 Dream Choice only? I think... No. Wait, Dream Choice only. Is it a 16? Yes. You're right, it is. If you do a Dream Choice, you can get the 16 head. It's not available like just to buy the head itself. So you would have to buy a Dream Choice to get the head. I was thinking more so I was going to say, no, it's a D-Cord exclusive, but I forgot D-Cord is 11 and 17, I think. So, yeah. But I think DDH 16 looks good for this one. Let me know what you guys think in chat or in the comment section down below if you're watching this at a later date. Tempest says, my vote for next week is Tsunade from Naruto. Bring on the big cups of tea. So, yeah, we can look into that. I'll look into that. I haven't watched Naruto. I only watched, like, the first 5 episodes, and it wasn't my cup of tea. My wife and my brother-in-law love Naruto. So I'll ask them for their help on doing that, but I'll look into that. I'll look into Tsunade from Naruto, and we'll see what I can come up with, at least, in different choices for next week. But that's everything for the Dream Doll section. So let me change this back. So that's everything for Dream Doll, and that's everything for today's episode of the Beyond the Doll. Thank you, everyone, for coming for episode 4, Maintenance and Care. I hope that you guys enjoyed this week's video. I was actually thinking about doing a totally different topic for this week, but I decided to do... Let me bring Skahath back, at least for the end. I decided to do Maintenance and Care because I figured it's just a good transition from talking about, like, what is an anime doll, where to buy anime dolls, and then, like, we talked about community, you know, finding other people that's into it. So I think that now that you're kind of, like, you know, if you've been watching from episode 1, I think you're pretty much very familiar with the genre. So the next couple episodes coming up are going to be something a little bit more, I don't know, like interesting, so to speak. I don't know if you found any of these interesting, but like they're going to be some pretty good topics. And this is where it's going to bring in some of the guest speakers that are coming in, because these next couple topics are going to be filled with guests because I want to get a different input on these particular topics, because I think that these guests that I'm asking to come on have a lot to share and a lot to talk about on these particular topics. So I don't know if our first guest will be the next episode, but it might be the next episode. So this is episode 4, so the first guest might appear in episode 6, but they may be next episode 5. It really depends on scheduling, because I am trying to work things out with everybody's schedule, trying to make sure I can get people to get on. But it's gonna get a little bit more lively for these episodes of Beyond the Doll, as we are gonna have some guests coming on, and you're gonna get a lot more back and forth, at least audibly, between me and touching base with another person, and then also that person chatting with you in chat. So again, thank you everybody for coming. I really hope you found this informative. I know a lot of people of you that were in chat talking back and forth with me, you seem to have really liked this topic and have learned a lot. But for those of you that are watching this stream at a later date, I really hope this really helped you out on, you know, learning about the dolls if you are going to be purchasing a new doll in the future, or if you're just a current new doll owner and there's just things that you didn't know that you found helpful. I'm really hopeful that this is a good episode for you to watch. For those of you that are experts in the field of owning dolls, who knows, maybe you learned something new. I mean, I learned something new every day. Even in chat, you guys saw in chat, I learned something new even today, talking with everybody in chat as well. So I really am grateful for everybody that watches my videos, whether it's Doll Symposium, Beyond the Doll, unboxing videos, whatever. I just want to say I'm truly grateful for all your support, all the love that you people give me, because it's just really heartfelt. And I just really want to thank everybody for being along on this journey with me, especially when I had my burnout and I took a break. And now that I'm back and on a regular schedule of every Friday, there's going to be at least something coming out. Having all of you comment and watching the videos, and especially those of you that come out for the live stream, just showing your support, I really appreciate it. And I just want to say I thank you very much for everybody's heartfelt and warm comments and wishes. It really helps me keep going, because sometimes there can be downers, you know. I do this for fun. I don't do this for employment to make money. I don't do this for fame. I don't do this for anything. But just having that little bit of encouragement, just people saying thank you for the video, or thank you for helping me, this helped a lot. Like, it just makes me, you know, feel better and want to do more to help out, you know. It's just very nice. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that has been along on this doll journey with me. So that's it for me. That's it for today's episode 4, Beyond the Doll Maintenance Care. I am your host, Shizusan, and my very, very lovely assistant down here is Skahath Scotty. You'll be seeing more of her in the future, I would assume, in random pictures or when I go to conventions, because I have fallen in love with this little lady. But thank you everybody for coming. We will see you in episode 5 of Beyond the Doll 2 weeks from now, and our next episode, which is episode 26 of the Doll Symposium, will be next Friday. Remember, the Doll Symposium is not a live stream, it's just a regular video that I'll be posting, but it will be posted on Friday. So thanks everybody for coming, and remember, hit that like button if you really enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, because if you subscribe, it'll send you notifications on when any of my new videos are coming out. And please, if you really enjoyed this video and you think it'll help somebody else, share the video. Spread some of that doll love to everybody else that you know. Thanks everybody again for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.